Strap into your seats and get ready. It's time for the Mortarpod.
Hey, it's Alex Stevenson. Welcome to this week's episode of the Mortarpod. So, Dragon's Maze is starting to be spoiled. Jake and I are taking a look at the spoilers, the ones on MagicTheGathering.com. I want to remind you the Mortarpod is brought to you by SeemsGoodMagic.com, which is a website I created with free draft video content. I record and upload them on YouTube on a regular basis, so if you haven't watched them, go to SeemsGoodMagic.com and check them out. It's also brought to you by VarenCamp.com. Scott Varenkamp designed our website, so if you like the way it looks, I thought he did a great job. You can go to his website at VehrEnkamp.com. If you'd like to contact me about anything relating to the podcast, you can do so at mortarpod@SeemsGoodMagic.com. And also, we live stream now Tuesdays and Thursdays, so you can watch us live stream at www.twitch.tv/Inez27 or just at SeemsGoodMagic.com, the main page. If you scroll down to the bottom, you can see when we're live streaming on Twitch, but it's Tuesdays and Thursdays, 7 p.m. Central Time. Also, follow us on Twitter, and you can see when I've uploaded new draft videos to YouTube. When I'm live streaming, I'll tweet, so a good way to see when I've put up new content or just find out what we're doing. And that's at SeemsGoodMagic, so follow us on Twitter. All right, enjoy this week's episode. This is a good one.
All right, Alex and Jake here for Mortarpod number 20. This is an exciting one. 20. This is exciting because we've got Dragon's Maze spoilers. So instead of the creatures where we left off at in the last podcast, which was Boros creatures from Gate Crash, we're going to just move on to spoilers. I think everybody wants to talk about spoilers. I know we do. So here we are at, as Jake loves to call it, the mothership.
Lovingly.
And we're checking out all the cards. So here we go. If this is a spoiler episode, so if you don't want to hear spoilers, I guess skip it. But
yeah,
how can you not want to hear spoilers?
Turn away now.
So yeah, we're gonna try and get as many through as many spoilers as we can. Starting with Renounce the Guilds. Renounce the Guilds. We're doing white spells first that they've spoiled. So Renounce the Guilds is 2 mana instant. Each player sacks a multicolored permanent. What do you think about it? Pretty interesting card.
It's good. It's like actually a really good answer to Boros Reckoner, since there hasn't really been one.
Yeah.
It also stops Huntmaster when it comes out, and they have to sacrifice the Huntmaster, you know.
Yeah, instead of the wolf. That's a good point. Interesting. So it's at the very least going to see some sideboard play, maybe.
Gets rid of Domri. I guess it's probably best against Naya because they specifically have the multicolor permanents you want to take out, you know.
Yeah.
And their monocolor permanents are not the ones you want to hit half the time. You know, Thundermaw Hellkite obviously being a very specific exception, you know.
Yeah. I think this is a really interesting card, and I'd actually like it for my humans list, because Reckoner usually puts a big dent in the plans, you know what I mean? So that'd be a good out for it.
I think in the Naya builds, they aren't really running that.
Huntmaster's a big deal, too.
They aren't running that many.
Olivia just wrecks, too.
Yeah, but I think it's good. I'm glad it's around. It's nice that it's like a balance effect.
Does it feel weird at rare?
It feels weird at instant, actually, you know.
I feel like it feels weird at rare.
If it was sorcery, it could have been uncommon. I think end of turn or after you cast your Huntmaster, I automatically do this, you know.
What are some other white spells that make people sacrifice then?
Balance. It's most like balance.
So it's a shout out maybe to that?
It's a balance type effect. Everybody has to do the same thing, you know. Tariff had a similar effect.
That's another reason why I think it feels weird at rare.
Because everybody has to participate, but that's White's like mantra, you know.
I see.
Like keeping the status quo.
I feel like it doesn't have the power level of what I would expect from a rare. And I think at uncommon,
it's a utility rare.
Yeah.
It's not. The reason it's rare is more likely because you don't really want to see a ton of them in limited.
Yeah, but even at uncommon, you're not going to see more than like 2. And if you do, it's not even that strong.
Yeah, but it could be annoying, and you might not want to play it because of that, you know?
Yeah, but it's not like they haven't had annoying uncommons, you know,
Yeah.
for limited.
But it's not the same as like smallpox, you know, where you had to sack a land too. This only gets rid of colored permanents, and they have to be multicolor. So in limited, you could actually probably love that one. You could build around it, you know, as your uncommon if you got 2 or 3 of them.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm interested to see it. It's not going to be played much in limited at all because, I mean, it'll be like
you can use it
a later pick, but I think it's definitely got some constructed applications. It hits some important targets in standard right now.
It's a constructed card.
Okay, the next is Sunspire Gatekeepers. And this is part of a cycle, but it's 3 and a white for a 2/4 human soldier. When it enters the battlefield, if you control 2 or more gates, put a 2/2 white knight creature token with vigilance onto the battlefield. So we've talked about each gatekeeper is going to have something just like that. This
is a very hard cycle. It's a 2/4 with 4 mana, and it's 1 color or 3 colorless and 1 colored mana, and they're all soldiers, I believe, too.
Okay, interesting.
And then they have an effect when they enter the battlefield. If you control 2 or more gates, is the only time it triggers. So, it's a very, very hard cycle, very tight.
It's cool though.
Mm-hmm.
I do like it. So let me make sure everything's going here. Yeah. Okay. So I don't know how. I mean, I don't know how they're all going to stack up right now, but this one would be very well costed at 4 mana if you have 2 gates.
Yeah.
You get a Vigilance Knight. And they've played, so far in Return to Ravnica block, all the cards that have generated the 2/2 Vigilance Knights, I feel like have been pretty good. The one from Return to Ravnica, the land enchantment that gives you 1.
Security Blockade.
Security Blockade turned out to be...
Valor.
Security Blockade turned out to be a really good card. Nightly, especially since it, like, just canceled Lobber Crew at, you know, just in full triple return or whatever. But, that one, yeah, that's really good. But also the Night Watch from Gatecrash is very good. That card it looks underwhelming, but played really well. What was the 5 mana aura that gave you the 2/2?
Nightly Valor.
Oh, okay, yeah. Is that all of them then?
You get a Knight token, and then you also make one of your creatures on the battlefield
get the
Knight bonus.
Yeah.
It's cool.
That card... I underrated it.
Yeah, that card's very strong.
You tend to underrate 5 mana auras most of the time, but this one is actually worth. I think it's because all 3 of the abilities are kind of underwhelming on their own, but putting them all together is actually really good. So, Sunspire Gatekeepers, I feel like it's pretty good, and it should be noted that all of them, in my opinion, are good, even if you don't have the gate ability, because
2/4s are good.
Amphin Cutthroat from M12 comes to mind. And though it wasn't a good card, 4 toughness is pretty relevant.
And in this block where 2 power is like the norm, 4 toughness is really good.
Okay, the next one's Opal Lake Gatekeepers. So this is a blue one in the cycle. So it's the 4 mana 2/4. And when it enters, if you control 2 or more gates, you may draw a card. So a cantrip creature, usually pretty good. Cantrip spells in general are usually pretty good. It's tough. I feel like this card, just like I said, I feel like all the gatekeepers. So, how do you like this compared to the white one?
I feel like the white one makes you want to grab gates. This one is like something that you would play with or without gates.
I see. So the white one's a little more underwhelming without the ability, whereas this one's fine because it's in blue, so having the 2/4.
Even the draw card ability isn't that great.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like, oh my god, I have to pick up like 2 or 3 gates now because I picked up 2 Opal Lake Gatekeepers, you know. Like, if I get them, I get them.
What do you think about the gatekeepers in general? Like, how many gates
feel like
do you feel comfortable, like, that
there will be plenty of gates now.
Okay.
That each Dragon's Maze pack has a gate.
Because the pack has, instead of the basic, they have the gate?
Mm-hmm.
And
There will
before,
be many gates.
and before in the first 2 packs, it's just going to be at common.
Mm-hmm.
You can find it. So that is interesting to know.
But
There's
that
going to be
means
more
that
gates.
right out of the gate, so to speak, there's 8 possible chances for you to get them. You know, if
Mhm.
not a Shockland or the Mazes End, I suppose.
Yeah, that is actually kind of crazy. So there's just going to be tons of gates floating around.
Mhm.
You think most decks are going to be running like 3 then?
I think you'll see that a lot more often now.
Okay, that's kind of
3,
interesting.
even 4, I could see.
Yeah, we're going to see some 5-color decks probably in
Mhm.
limited.
People will probably get gates, I would think. I mean, I could see people going for up to 5 or 6 and actually just focusing on the gate mechanic.
I've already heard of the crackling perimeter deck
Yeah,
in limited, which is ridiculous.
that can be good. And with creatures like this to hold down the fort, or like Smelt Ward is already in that color, so you get an active treason attached to a 2/4 blocker, you know? That's pretty sick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Smelt Ward's the red one, and it's a 4-mana 2/4 with active treason on it. So it's like Zealous Conscripts in that regard, but
Yeah.
instead of stealing permanents, it's just creatures. But it's still it's good,
It's common, so it's relevant.
and it's also this is an odd power toughness for red. I'm trying to think of other cards that actually have 2/4 in red, and it's very difficult to think of any.
More often than not, if they're red creatures and they have large toughness, it's like Valakut Fireboard is one that comes to mind, or you know, Earth Elemental. Like they have a bigger toughness than power because they're made of stone, or Fireboard, they're just huge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Smelt Ward I feel like is fine though. It's
Mhm.
good.
I think they're all good, and I just want to like actually touch on all of them.
Yeah.
So
All
we
right.
don't
So
have
the
to
next
talk.
one's Ubel Sar Gatekeepers, and this one is the black one. It's 4-mana 2/4. It looks like that one actually isn't a soldier. The Smelt Ward.
Oh, it's a warrior. Crazy.
Interestingly, but the black one and the blue one are both soldiers as well.
And that's really odd for black to have soldier. Well, it's actually less odd for black to have it, but like it is a little strange, you know. Black has knights, so the soldier thing isn't too far off.
But it's also a zombie
Yeah,
soldier.
the fact that
so
it's a zombie is just like the part that kind of makes it, you know.
make a little more sense.
Yeah.
But anyway, the black one is if you have 2 gates, creature gets -2/-2. A creature an opponent controls gets -2/-2 until end turn. So you don't have to use its ability on your own creature, which is nice. And it does make it mandatory that you do it, though. That is how all of them are, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Except, no, I guess the Opal Lake is a May.
Yeah, May draw a card.
That's interesting. But
I wonder if putting a token out is actually a May too.
well, all right. Let's look at the green one, and then the green one
Oh,
is
it's also a warrior. Okay.
the green one is a warrior, an elf warrior, and you gain 7 life if you control 2 gates. So I would say that's probably got to be the worst one, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And before that, I would say probably the blue one. The Opal Lake is the second to worst one
Mhm.
after that. And then I would say probably
I honestly
the
think
red one.
all 3 of these are really good.
I think the best. It's a straight up toss up between Gatekeepers and or Sunspire Gatekeepers and Ubel Sar. So the black and the white.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
They're good.
I think it's actually better than the
Yeah.
active treason effect.
The bottom line is that all the gatekeepers are totally playable in whatever deck you want to run them in.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, let's talk about Blood Scrivener.
All right, so Blood Scrivener is a 2-mana 2/1 zombie wizard, and if you would draw a card while you have no cards in your hand, instead you draw 2 cards and you lose 1 life. I am very fascinated by this card because this is probably the most efficient time for. They've done an odd thing with zombies this time around because before, historically, there's always a lot of 3-drops for zombies and they're all good, but you just can't get away with running too many 3-drops. And a lot of them were lords. Zombies, I feel like, are notorious for having like just a lot of different lords.
Mm-hmm.
But this time around, they don't have many lords at all. The only one is Diregraph Captain, I think.
Diregraph. Yeah.
That's the black.
Gavingo Runebinder to an extent, but he's human.
Runebinder is kind of a zombie lord, but yeah, I mean, in a way.
And Cemetery Reaper's not around anymore.
No,
yeah,
he's not.
So yeah, I think it is. Captain is.
Which is strange.
But
in exchange, you have super efficient one drops.
Yeah.
So you have both Gravecrawler, which is probably the best one drop zombie ever printed, I think.
I think that can probably be said hands down without any question, actually.
Yeah. I mean, it's much better than Carnophage. It's better than
Diregraph Ghoul.
Which is the also one
Diregraph
that's,
Ghoul is
yeah.
like an upgrade to Carnophage even. So.
Yeah, Diregraph Ghoul is actually really good as a 1-mana just 2/2 at uncommon. That's like super. They're not supposed to get efficient creatures in black.
No,
so.
but I really do like the direction that they took zombies this time around. You know, with this really aggressive, hyper aggressive, you know, like resin army and attack with it, basically.
Mhm.
You know, it's a sweet idea. You know.
But I felt like this could play a role in that deck, as it
Mhm.
lets you return Gravecrawler. It motivates you for having to have like a really low curve, so you can just get rid of your hand as fast as possible.
And he still attacks too, well enough.
And then he generates you some card advantage. But I think he is going to be a little bit worse than I thought. Like he'll be certainly playable in a zombie themed deck, but unless they print a sweet zombie lord,
I don't think this card's that bad.
I think it's okay. I think it's pretty good.
It's not. They're not reprinting Bob here. You know, like don't get your hopes up about that. And this is not a Phyrexian arena. This is its own card that does its own thing.
And remember, and also important to note for people, it doesn't like stack with another one. So it's not like you can have multiple Blood Scriveners out and have no cards in hand and draw from each of them.
What it does do though is if you have Blood Scrivener out and no cards in hand, like if you cast a spell like Divination and it's your last card, you draw 4 cards. Or a Sign in Blood, you would draw 4 cards.
Or instant speed Think Twice at the end of their turn and you have no cards in hand. You get to get 2 from that as well. Right?
Think Twice? Well, no, because they're each separate, you know. So like
what?
It has
no, I meant end of their turn, use like a flashback Think Twice if you have no cards in hand.
Yeah,
and you generate 2 cards.
2 cards. Yeah.
So it basically turns Think Twice on an empty hand into 2 cards as well, either side of it. So that's kind of convenient. And even like, wait, that's kind of weird. So how would it work with like Faithless Looting if you have no cards in hand?
Faithless Looting, you would draw 4 cards, lose 2 life, and discard 2 cards.
Lose how much life?
You lose 1 life per card you would draw when you have no cards in your hand. That's like this static thing.
You lose 1 life per card you would draw.
Not so you for every 2 cards that you actually draw.
Because Faithless Looting has you drawing it at once, drawing 2 in one effect. That's why you lose 2 life.
I think. I'm pretty sure that's how it works. So somebody can please let us know if that's not how it works. But I'm almost positive that because it's like it is one effect, you're drawing 2 cards immediately. If you would draw a card while you have no cards in hand, instead draw 2 cards and lose 1 life. So
I guess I just figured
as soon as you draw the first one, you have it. But I mean I could see either way on it. But to me, it makes more sense that if you have no cards in hand, then instead of like drawing whatever you would have drawn, you draw 2 cards per card you would have drawn.
I guess. Yeah, I don't know how it's going to work.
No, I mean, it should say if you would draw 1 or more cards while you have no cards in hand, instead draw twice that many cards and lose X life, where X is half the number of cards you drew.
So instead it says if you would draw a card. So I think it's
first draw is 2.
You play Faithless Looting.
Yeah.
You draw 2, lose 1, then you draw another one, then you discard 2.
Yeah.
I think that's what
I do think.
I think that's what would happen. But I'm not sure.
So we should almost look it up.
How would you look that up?
If it has a gatherer thing, can you just click on it? No. Can you look in the gathering for Blood Scrivener? I know we'll lose our place.
They don't have it on there yet, I would think.
Well, I wouldn't think either, but
I don't think they have it yet. The new cards that have just been spoiled, I don't think they put up.
That one.
We'll have to come back to
Yeah,
that, I think, unfortunately. But I'm definitely interested in knowing.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on.
Okay.
We're on to Advent of the Worm now.
Okay, Advent of the Worm is it's Selesnya colors.
So there's what a worm would look like if it wasn't drawn to look like a penis. Just so you all know.
And he's of course referring to Armada Worm on that one, which does in fact look like a penis. Advent of the Worm though is a 4-mana instant. Oh, I didn't realize it was instant too. Wow. Wowzers.
Yeah.
That's silly. Yep. It would have been great at 4 sorcery.
Mm.
It's actually insane at 4 instant. And that's a sweet constructed application too, in my opinion. Flashing that in. Anyway, it's 1 and 2 green and a white, so it's 4 mana instant. Put a 5/5 green worm creature token with trample onto the battlefield. Well, that's just super efficient. I think that's, I mean, it's absolutely, you're gonna play it in limited, but this feels like a construct playable card to me, absolutely. Simply because it's flash, the fact that you can put 2 creatures on the battlefield and then pass turn and walk into a Supreme Verdict.
Yeah.
And then end of turn get your 5/5 worm creature. So
that's true.
Surprise worm creatures against any sort of sorcery speed removal.
Deck, yeah.
Any sort of sorcery speed removal, and you're just gonna dominate them. Like, imagine doing instant speed Advent of the Worm, untap, my turn, Silverblade Paladin, swing for 10.
Yeah.
So you get, like, just surprise soul bonding. You get, it's really...
And 10 double strike trample.
Yeah.
Like, trample is the key there, because they're definitely taking damage at some point.
And now and think about this, now at 4 mana, think how much stuff you have to play around now. Restoration Angel and Advent of the Worm, both of which are going to be total annoyances to... to play against. So that's pretty amazing, actually. That's a really good spell. And I don't see how that can't get constructed play, in my opinion. You know?
Yeah, I agree.
I would very highly rate that card. The trample makes it. The trample and the instant in conjunction with each other, really good. Alright, the next one is Armed and Dangerous. These are actually going to be difficult for me to read because they're sideways, so I think I'm just going to go to MTG Salvation and not look at the pretty pictures on those. So let's just go through all the split cards. So Armed and Dangerous. These are, maybe you want to explain, it's kind of a throwback to which set exactly?
They first did it in Invasion, but this is a like harking back to Dissension from Ravnica. They did these like double guild split cards, and people really like them. They're all fun, like to play in Commander, so they're good. And I think I'm really glad that they brought them back and added this fuse mechanic. So it is notable that fuse does not work with Cascade and cannot use Snapcaster with it, because you can only cast with fuse from your hand. So they've already like kind of linchpinned it all. But, you know, it still works fine with Cascade because you can, you know, play your Bloodbraid Elf into breaking and do entering instead, or back into call, you know. So those kind of cascades still do work. It's just you don't get to fuse off your cascade.
Yeah. That's interesting. So you have to cast it from your hand. Yeah. That is good to note. Fuse, I said, was like Entwine, and it feels a lot like Entwine. And Entwine was from, which set was that from, actually?
Mirrodin. It started in Mirrodin.
Okay, but Entwine was a card that had, every card with Entwine was a card that had 2 different modes on it. And then what Entwine let you do is play both of the modes on the card. So Fuse, similarly to that, combines the 2 modes on these split cards. But the difference would be that it's more versatile. I think these cards are a little more versatile than those were, because how do I explain it? Like,
Because
Entwine was like a
changing the mana cost is actually like the key difference between Entwine spells and split cards.
yeah. So you have two different straight up, like
They're two different spells.
yeah. So you could actually play this. You could play like Armed and Dangerous, which is a red and green spell, in either a mono red or a mono green deck.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Entwine spells, the casting cost was always the same for the original spell.
Mm-hmm.
So it didn't like work in different decks. So I do think these are going to be a little more versatile than the Entwine spells. But that it kind of indicates to me that, I don't know, that you almost wouldn't want to bring Entwine back after this. I don't know. It makes me uncomfortable that they have both of these mechanics now, because they do feel so similar.
Entwine is also like Kicker. If you kicked it, do both. You know.
Kicker was like, yeah, you get an additional ability if you pay the kicker cost.
And they've already acknowledged that Kicker covers so much. You know, buyback can be redone as Kicker. You know, if you kick it, return it to your hand.
Yeah, that's true.
So
there's overlap.
Yeah, Kicker is already like kind of a thorn in the side of a lot of abilities, because they can't, you know, it's always like, well, why not just Kicker? And it does this for this spell, you know?
Yeah. It's pretty interesting. I mean, when you start getting to, you know, over 10,000 different cards, and you have to have all of these different mechanics, brand new mechanics, guaranteed in every set, you start to run into some overlap, and I think that's unavoidable, or very difficult to avoid, because as complex as the game has become, the game is literally playing spells and creatures and attacking your opponent. So expanding onto it can be very difficult, and coming up with creative new ideas can also be very difficult. And they have had a trend for a while where they'll bring back old mechanics that were popular, you know. They reprint, and Core-Set has like a theme
plan to do that, actually, because
you want them to come back. I like the idea of them,
because you know there are a lot of ideas, but you don't want to just burn them all out, you know, and get us burnt out on new stuff all the time either, you know. Like, don't make us sick of the fact that something hasn't come back, or, you know, like bored with the newness, all the new stuff, you know, or like overwhelmed by it even, you know. They pay a lot of attention, you know, to how to sorry, she's distracting me by being on the counter.
Yeah, I'll take care of it.
Oh, yeah. I guess I'll get down now. Anyways, I don't know what else to say. I forgot even my entire train of thought.
Completely lost what you were doing, huh?
Darn it.
Well, that's good.
Cat on the counter did it for me.
We were talking about split cards. We were talking about old mechanics, how they were all coming together.
It's just a good idea to bring them back. That's basically the gist.
How there was a lot of overlap in the mechanics. And anyway, so let's get on to the split cards now. Armed and Dangerous is the first one. Its two colors are red and green. It's 1 and a red for the armed side, which is target creature gets +1/+1 and gains double strike until end of turn, and 3 and a green for the other side, which is all creatures able to block target creature do so this turn, and it has the fuse. Fuses them together, so you can cast one or both halves of this card from your hand. Anyway, so this one's cool, obviously, because it makes the creature bigger. It gives it double strike, which is an advantage since it's like a lure effect.
Well, you can even do it on your other creature that you didn't give the double strike to, if it's going to be lethal.
Here, I'll take care of it. Oh, she got down again. Okay, my cat's driving me nuts. Anyway, so yeah, obviously boosting it, giving it double strike, and then putting a lure effect on it, you're gonna like kill a lot of stuff. So Lure is actually a really good ability in limited too. Golgari Decoy comes to mind in
Yeah.
recent limited as just being a really phenomenal card. Very powerful.
I feel like Armed is also just a really strong card.
Yeah, and keep in mind it's not like a combat trick either because it is
Yeah.
both sides are sorcery speed. But I like this spell. I think it's definitely gonna have some limited applications. Keep in mind, I mean, it's like in Gruul colors too, Blood Rush. So it's like sorcery speed. This get in, just do the arm side. If that creature gets through any Blood Rush, like a Skin Brand Goblin would give it +4 power.
This is amazing on like anything with trample too.
Yeah, it is. Like even a Crowned Ceratok. Can you imagine that?
Yeah,
Getting in for like 10 trample double strike.
but that's just double strike for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I like it. The next one is Beck and Call. So this is Simic crossed with Azorius. Beck is green and a blue sorcery. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield this turn, you may draw a card. And Call is 4, a white, and a blue sorcery. Put 4 1/1 white bird creature tokens with flying onto the battlefield. And fuse once again. All of them have fuse.
Yeah.
So this is cool because it's Beck is pretty much Glimpse of Nature, which was a card that was 1 green sorcery, same exact ability. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield this turn, you may draw a card. But this card's cool, obviously, because it's 8 mana, get 4 1/1 flyers, and you draw 4 cards, which is really strong. So I like this. I like this spell. It's probably going to be pretty difficult to get 8 mana in limited, but I feel like there's enough. The value on this is enough where you could probably take it if you're in the right deck. You're in green, so you're getting the ramp already. Look for Verdant Havens and Gate Crash. You get your Axebane Guardian in Return to Ravnica.
Mm-hmm.
You could realistically get 8 mana. In triple Return to Ravnica, the Axebane Guardian deck was a deck, and you would get like Horncaller's Chant as your finisher and other, 8+ drops.
Yeah.
And it was a legit strategy. But what do you think about Beck and Call? Is this even any sort of... I feel like we're going to see some constructed play with the Beck side of it because Glimpse was highly played and is highly played today in Elf like combo decks. Or actually, is it banned or?
I don't think it is, but maybe it is. Maybe it's banned in Modern, but not in Legacy.
I don't know. I feel like there's somewhere where it's banned actually, but anyway.
I think it is Modern banned.
Okay.
But Beck is a nice way around that,
I mean, it's 2 color. It's much more difficult to play than Glimpse of Nature. You have to get an entirely new color.
Also 2 mana.
Yeah, so it's 2 mana. You have to play an entirely new color. It's not as easy to play as Glimpse, but I still think you're gonna find some cool decks that do interesting things with it. I'm trying to think where exactly.
A ramp deck wouldn't mind this.
Even alongside Burning Tree Emissary.
In Omniscience, you can play both halves for free.
Emissary just turns into 2/2s plus. It's like 2/2s that draw you a card. If you played 2 Emissaries after a Beck,
yeah,
draw 2 cards, still have 2 mana in your mana pool for something else. So it's cool. And Somberwald Sage would play well alongside Beck, cheating out multiple creatures at once.
Mm-hmm.
So any sort of ramp creature actually would work really well with Beck in Standard, any format, but thinking about constructed applications of it. I like it. There's not a lot of cheap blue creatures that I like a lot. I guess Delver's kind of cool with this. Since it flips Delver.
Yeah.
You can also play Delver late, draw from him.
And play Call, so... I mean...
Just the back side. I feel like the Call side's really not going to be constructed much.
I'm just saying you can Call in the Delver deck, or whatever, for more creatures. Rune, Chanter's Pike, and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying as a strategy, I'm saying the Call
because it's on
is
color
still useful.
Yeah, that's true. But overall, I think I'd evaluate this card as it's gonna find a really crazy deck. I think actually Beck, in I don't know what format exactly, but I feel like that's gonna be used.
Beck deck wins
somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Well, since it's in Modern and you said it might be, or Glimpse might be banned in Modern, this could be the replacement for it. But anyway, on to the next one. Breaking and Entering. This is a mix between Dimir and Rakdos. Breaking is a blue and a black. Both sides are sorceries. Blue and a black, target player puts the top 8 cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard. Entering is the other side. It's 4, a black and a red. Put a creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. It gains haste until end of turn.
So good.
So 2 mana, 8 cards. This is actually, what was Glimpse the Unthinkable?
Glimpse?
10?
Oh, Glimpse was 2 for 10, yeah. So it's a downgrade, but...
It's downgrade, but it has a second side to it.
Yeah.
But also, this is in a standard environment right now alongside Mind Sculpt, which is 2 mana, 7 cards. So is Mill gonna, and you have Jace Memory Adept, which is the planeswalker that mills the most of any other. Mills way harder than little Jace did, that's for sure. So milling 10, turn it comes out, goes unanswered, 10 again. That adds up really fast. He's a must answer. But we were talking briefly about trying to make a mill deck. I don't know how easy it would actually be.
No, I don't either.
I feel like the deck's is not very viable right now. I don't really like it. I think it's still difficult to play. Like, you would clearly be playing 4 copies of Snapcaster, so you could just reuse your Mind Sculpt and reuse your Breaking. But there wasn't a ton of support. Like, we didn't even know if Dream Twist is good enough. You know?
6 cards for 3 mana. Chill.
So you pretty much have Jace, Dream Twist, Mind Sculpt, Breaking. Were there any other really good? The rare ones, you have Mind Grind and you have Increasing Confusion. So both of those are, I mean...
Mind Grind's not terrible. I don't like Increasing Confusion that much, though.
I kind of like it. I feel like if you have a way, if you're self-milling anyway, or if you're ramping in any way, both cards are really good. But double out of your graveyard is pretty insane, actually.
It is true.
Which is kind of cool. It was sick and limited. But, yeah, it really was. Breaking, I feel like, Breaking and Entering, I feel like it's not going to be a very high pick and limited, though. I wouldn't really worry about it. Unless if you're planning on being dedicated mill, then take Breaking. But if you're not, then I wouldn't worry about it. I guess, I mean, it'd certainly be good. It's good enough alongside, like, the stuff from Gatecrash, the Death's Approaches, and what else do you get rewarded for in Gatecrash?
For having creatures in your graveyard? Or cards in graveyards, or what?
White of Precinct 6 works really well alongside Breaking. Consuming Aberration works really well alongside Breaking.
Yeah.
So you actually have plenty of good Dimir cards alongside it. Okay, next is Far and Away. This is just a straight Dimir split card. Far is the blue side. It's 1 and a blue instant. This is instant spells. Return target creature to its owner's hand. So it's an unsummon at 2 mana, and then Away is target player sacks a creature. Obviously, this is a sweet card because bouncing and sacking, you get more control over your sack effect, which is just really cool.
Yeah.
I like this card quite a bit.
You can play this at 5 mana in response to, actually, we should look up the ruling on Fuse. Does it all resolve as 1?
They've already added it to the compendium, I'm guessing.
It was already on the main, or the web mothership.
The mothership.
The mothership.
Daily MTG.
Product information there, Dragon's Maze down. Yeah.
Product information.
No, nothing. Wait, read the Arcana. No, that's not it.
Dragon Maze Mechanics.
There we go. Split cards with Fuse.
The Dragon's Maze set features a new twist on split cards. Split cards, which previously appeared in the original Ravnica block, feature 2 spells printed on the same card. Just like their predecessors, the Dragon's Maze split cards give you the option of casting one half or the other, but with the new Fuse ability, you don't have to pick just one. Anytime you could cast a split card with Fuse, you can choose one half and cast it just like any other split card, and if you're casting it from your hand, as you usually are, you have the additional option to cast both halves as a single spell by paying their combined cost. Instructions on the left are processed first, then the instructions on the right, and targets for the 2 halves are chosen separately. So if you have Toil and Trouble in your hand, which is 2 and a black, target player draws 2 cards and loses 2 life, and Trouble is 2 and a red, Trouble deals damage to target player equal to the number of cards in that player's hand. So if you put them together, they draw 2, lose 2 life for that, and then lose how many they have in their hand total. So at least another 2. So it's at least 6 mana to make them lose 4 life. But, so if you have Toil and Trouble in your hand, you have 3 options. You can pay 3 to cast Toil, you can pay 3 to cast Trouble, or you can pay 6 to cast Toil and Trouble as a single spell. If you're casting them from somewhere else, say because of Epic Experiment, you'll choose 1/2 to cast as you would with any other split card. Okay. Because the text on the left happens before the text on the right, if you target the same player with both halves of Toil and Trouble, that player will draw 2 cards and lose 2 life before the right half of the spell counts the card in his or her hand. Alternatively, you could give yourself the cards and life loss from Toil and your opponent the damage from Trouble. Kind of cool.
Yeah.
So it is very versatile.
Mm-hmm.
If you cast both halves of Toil and Trouble, it's a black and red spell. That means it's a multicolored spell, which might matter for cards such as Pyroconvergence. Some split cards in the set are multicolored on both halves, so they're multicolored spells whether you fuse them or not. Also interesting to know, even if you don't cast the half that's multicolor, it is still a multicolor spell.
Wait, what did that just say?
Some split cards in the set are multicolored on both halves, so they're multicolored spells whether you fuse them or not.
I'm sorry, I thought it said only on one half or something, which would have been very strange.
Okay, so we did Toil and Trouble, we did Far and Away, although I kind of want to wrap up Far and Away. It's an uncommon as well. It looks like all of them are at least uncommons.
I think the monocolor ones are uncommon, so the ones that are single guild affiliated are uncommon, you know, and then the ones that are multi-guild affiliated are rare.
Cool, that makes sense. But anyway, Far and Away, are we going to see some construction on this one?
Yes.
I feel
This
like that
card's
too.
good.
This is a sweet card.
Spite and Malice was really good when Invasion was out, and that was just counter a non-creature spell for 4 mana, or for 4 mana destroy a non-black, non-artifact creature.
Wow, really?
Yeah, and Baron's Spite was like this, I think it was choose 2 target creatures an opponent controls, or a single player controls. That creature, or those creatures' controller returns 1 to their hand and sacks the other.
Wow. So this is there's been similar spells to this before?
Baron's Spite is probably the closest.
Okay. But anyway, should also be noted with Snapcaster and Constructed, you're only going to be able to get flashback on 1/2. You don't get to fuse the card that you give flashback to.
But even doing Away twice, you know.
Oh, yeah, it's excellent. Let me get to the next one here. Not this one. The one I'm looking for in particular. Wait, where is that? Here it is. It was the next one. Turn and Burn. 2 and a blue, instant, target creature loses all abilities and becomes a 0/1 red weird until end of turn. And Burn is 1 and a red. Burn deals 2 damage to target creature or player. So this card's sweet because it's an actual blue-red removal spell. Much in the same vein as like a Fissure, which is the only like red actual straight-up creature destruction spell that comes to mind. I think there's more. I don't know.
I'm exactly most reminded of Jilt by this.
Jilt, very similar as well. Wasn't that? I thought that was 2.
It was colorless and blue to return a creature, and then kicker for colorless and red to deal 2 damage to a creature or player, I think.
The reason I like this with Snapcaster in particular is Snapcaster doing turn is like surprise block on their stuff. So you're really doing it as like a 3 blue removal spell for their creature.
For their bigger than 2 toughness creature, yeah. Like, because you could just use Burn in your deck too.
True. But for any fatty or any evasive guy, you can turn them, surprise block them.
Like bring Thundermare down and block it.
Boros Reknor would be sweet.
Yep, that'd be a really good
5 mana, turn it, block it, kill it, get it out of there. Don't deal with its nonsense.
This card is really just good for combat.
So I like it quite a bit. And Snapcaster decks are going to love this card. Turn with Snapcaster I see being very annoying. But, I mean, limited as well. That's going to be really played. Just super played. Awesome for Izzet. You really can't ask for better than straight up creature destruction.
Because Burn shocks players, Turn and Burn might have constructed applications too.
Oh,
Maybe not as, like,
no, absolutely. Absolutely.
Aphora, but
I really think you're going to see some weird control decks running this, and alongside Snapcaster. I really believe that. Sideboard at the very least,
Yeah.
because that's going to be an excellent way to deal with creatures with Snapcaster, or just in general. Okay, Wear and Tear is the next one. Another instant speed one. Wear is 1 in a red, destroy target artifact, and Tear is white, destroy target enchantment. So pretty similar to just a Naturalize, but the difference being more versatile mana cost.
it's actually most like Hull Break or whatever, Hull something from Plane Shift.
You can also destroy an artifact and an enchantment
Yeah.
with this, which makes it, yeah. So was it Hull Breach?
Hull Breach, yeah, and
And
that
one
was 2
green
mana
and a
sorcery.
Oh, it was green and a red though, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
but it was sorcery also.
And that was destroy target artifact or enchantment, and then destroy another.
No, it was choose one or more, destroy target, or choose one or both, destroy target artifact or destroy target enchantment.
Cool. Yeah. So it is a lot like Hull Breach. You're right. This will definitely be good in. It'll be a good sideboard card in limited.
Click on
and
the
I think
image for that.
it'll be a good sideboard card in constructed as well.
Oh,
I think.
They do half of them sideways. Okay,
Well, they're probably from different sources.
I see.
Alive and Well is the next one. It's a Selesnya card. Sorcery. Alive is 3 and a green. Put a 3/3 Centaur creature token onto the battlefield, and Well is a white. Gain 2 life for each creature you control.
Okay.
Kind of cool card.
Yeah.
What do I think about Alive and Well? It's certainly
The art sucks. Oh my god, the art sucks.
it's very plain
Yeah.
art. The Centaur just appears to be. It's a very.
I mean, it's hard.
It's a minimalistic picture.
It's hard to show stuff on
Split cards.
a split card frame, but this one is like, I mean,
It's very empty.
it's Niles Ham has really good art, but he's very monochromatic, you know? So like this didn't really equate well to a split card in my opinion.
You can see that. What do I think about this card? Definitely, it's going to be highly played in limited. You're in the populate color, so any cards, in my opinion, any cards that are really making tokens are very strong. I guess the exception being if your opponent has a bunch of bounce spells. I remember playing Azorius. By the end, I had decided in Return to Triple Return, Azorius was the best guild to be in because you had the bounce for the tokens, so you could deal with that kind of Selesnya strategy. You had life gain from like Dramatic Rescue and stuff, so you could also deal with Rakdos or hyper aggro by just, slowing them down and gaining life. You had like Swift Justice, which also crippled that strategy. So Azorius, and you had evasive creatures. So it was like, I really liked that guild the best by the end. I think Azorius was the best in Triple Return. But I'm thinking like that was really the only strategy that was good against tokens that I can think of. So other than that, populate away, make your Centaur creatures. It's kind of funny that Call of the Conclave does this for 2 mana, one half of it.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose it is a 5 mana 3/3 that gains you 2 life for each creature you control when it enters the battlefield.
Yeah, actually, the Well in limited it could be very useful. Very useful.
I really can't see this one. I mean, there will be times when you will play just Alive, but I think it's either you're playing Well or you're playing Alive and Well, you know?
You mean you're playing Alive or you're playing Alive and Well?
No, you're playing Well by itself, or you're playing Alive and Well.
In limited?
I don't think that you would play Alive that often just by itself.
I do. The token's that relevant if you're in Selesnya. By the end, it was like Security Blockade and all those. Any sort of token producer.
I feel like you could build up enough of an army by 5 mana to actually make Alive and Well much better, you know?
Yeah, definitely. I think the only reason tokens are good is all those spells from Return to Ravnica that had Populate were pretty subpar without Populate. Like even Trostani's Judgment sometimes didn't feel like
Good
you were
enough, yeah.
like you weren't feeling the full value when you were paying 6 to exile a creature. You really wanted to hit, get some extra value off of it, especially before combat. If they were swinging in, it was so much more important. But anyway, yeah, I think that's definitely going to see I don't know how fast of a pick it is because, like you said, it's 4 mana 3/3. I think it's still a fairly high pick if you're dead set on doing some token strategy. I think it falls a little bit short in your gate crash pack because there's not a lot to support your token strategy. You have Night Watch. What else produces tokens in
Assemble the Legion?
Assemble the Legion, but then you're talking Boros, and then you're talking like Sunhome Guildmage too, or
and actually that's fine for Boros Celestia bear up.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely. But I feel like there was a lot more token production. There was a lot more token production in Return to Ravnica because Selesnya was in there. So something you have to keep in mind: cards that you're picking from Dragon's Maze that support, populate strategies. You have to be thinking in the long term. You may have to go through an awkward pack of Gatecrash to get to your populate strategy. So that's kind of the dilemma with full block when you're playing full block. You know what I mean? You run into that kind of issue where it's like, am I getting screwed by my Gatecrash pack right now? Am I making a bad choice here? What if my Return to Ravnica pack supports me nothing on what I've been planning to do? So you run into weird issues like that. But this is only for like that if you have a specific strategy in mind. You could just be like, if you're not going synergistic and you're just hoping to like draw the best cards on color with what you're doing, that might be all you're left with to do. You might not have the luxury of being able to just like go for a strategy and make it work. It's a lot more difficult to have a consistent strategy work in full block. You only have one pack if you're looking for like a specific card. It's much the same reason like full Innistrad block when it was 2 in Dark Ascension. A lot of people were like, I liked it better when it was just triple Innistrad, because they wanted to do the spider spawning deck. So
yeah, that's true.
So sometimes looking for a specific card, it's certainly going to be less chance that you get that specific card in full block. Next is Flesh and Blood, and this is actually the last one that's been spoiled for split cards. This is a cross between Golgari and Gruul, and it's 3, a black and a green for Flesh, which is exile target creature card from a graveyard. Put X +1/+1 counters on target creature where X is the power of the exiled card. So it's straight up scavenge. It scavenges a creature at a static cost
anyone's graveyard. Though.
I see. Okay, so it's an upgrade in that you can do your opponent's graveyard as well. And it's 5 mana. Blood is a green and a red. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature or player. That's pretty cool. So it would be 7 mana. Bring a creature back from a graveyard. It gets X +1/+1 counters. Or not bring it back from a graveyard, but exile a creature from a graveyard. Basically scavenge any creature onto a creature, then it deals that much. The creature you did it to deals that much damage. This is pretty cool. I like it.
Yeah, this is the best way they could have done this. If Flesh had just been a res, and then target creature or choose a creature you control, that creature deals damage equal to its power to target creature or player.
Yeah.
If it was that, it wouldn't be as good.
And why is that?
Because you can deal like enough damage to kill them in one turn with Flesh and Blood as it is now, But you wouldn't be able to do that necessarily if you had to res a creature and wait for that creature to be able to attack. This way you can use your removal on their end step to kill their biggest creature, steal it, and potentially hit their other creature with the blood side, or hit them with it, and then swing for lethal. I like this card. What's the picture look like?
It's kind of cool with Snapcaster too. The Flesh side, where it's like 7 mana. These weird pictures.
The art is really sweet for both of them, actually.
But 7 mana, you'd get your Snapcaster and then pretty much like scavenge any creature from any graveyard onto it. So it's kind of cool.
That is cool. It's good in like a mill them strategy possibly too.
But even Blood alongside Snapcaster turns it into a shock.
Sorcery speed shock, but still.
Still useful, versatile. I like it. I feel like honestly, Snapcaster is going to be hot after with the split cards. He's going to be very popular. It's like twice the options. So
far and away the best, I think, with him.
Were you LSV? Okay. So that was all the split cards. We've done the gatekeepers. Let's just keep moving down the list. We can probably
Yeah.
Okay.
Just skip the fuse cards. Oh,
Bread for the Hunt. This is a Simic card. It's an uncommon for 3 mana. Whenever a creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. Cool. So we've actually seen this in this color combination before. Who's the commander that does this? Like Edric something or Edric
sort
Spy,
of, yeah.
Edric Spymaster or something?
Well, whenever a creature deals damage to an opponent, combat damage to an opponent, that creature's controller draws a card.
So this one's specifically geared for creatures with +1/+1 counters, but it's you control only.
Yeah.
And it's an enchantment instead of a creature, but still, it's similar ability, similar cost. I think they were both 3 mana.
This card's sweet too.
This is a cool card. This will be.
That's got Dak Faden, I think, on the picture there.
That's who's laying on the ground.
Yeah.
It's a picture of. Maybe you should describe it. I don't know exactly what's going on in it.
It's a Simic altered beast. And
nice shout out to the old arcade game.
Thanks. And it looks like it just punked Dak Faden.
Now, who's Dak Faden? He's the guy from Is It?
No.
Is that right?
Well, he's like from the comic book storyline, and I don't know a ton about him, other than like he was looking for some planeswalker, and he's been to Ravnica and Innistrad, and basically he is going everywhere that the story goes, but you know, he's not a part of the main story. They don't really plan on releasing him as a card, but you can tell it's him because if you see the close-up image of this, his right hand is red, and Dak Faden has a burned right hand.
Oh.
Something. So
interesting. It's kind of funny that this card's like straight up dead sometimes. You know what I mean? So you do have to like play this card wisely. I don't think it's a slam first pick by any means, by any stretch of the imagination. The fact that you have to build around it in your pack 2 is where you really get the most opportunities to even make this work. This card also is going to work very well alongside Golgari because this card's going to work well alongside Golgari because of Scavenge. So,
little bitch.
My cat's so obnoxious.
She's fine.
It's like she knows that I'm recording something, so I'll go get her down. She's on the counter right now. But I think I've got it rate Bread for the Hunt out of 10 because I think I'm going to rate this a little bit lower than you will.
I like it if you're Simic. This would have been a great card for Gate Crash. I don't know what else to say about it. It really would have been great if it was in triple Gate Crash. But unless they do a lot of Evolve in Dragon's Maze, like really support it, or support +1/+1 counters even more, I mean, that it's limited in its applications. I suppose it works well with Golgari, you know. You can scavenge onto creatures, but just in the end, I don't think it's going to be as great as it could have been.
Yeah, neither do I. I think it's going to be... I'd rate
out
it...
of 10?
Yeah,
probably like a 3 or 4.
Yeah, I think I have to rate it that low, too. It's actually got a lot of potential upside if you manage to go deep enough in Simic Golgari.
And this card would have actually...
And you don't have to go Golgari either. Also note, there's cards like Grozda Monitor, Drudge Beetle, that would let you say straight Simic, and you could still get the value for this card.
This card would have been really good in Dissension.
Actually. Slitherhead, too. You could go... Slitherhead makes this card very good. But overall, I think a 3 or 4 is pretty accurate for this. It's very build around, and what's going to be the biggest problem if you're like... I guess you're drafting it early so you could try to build around it, but it's like not a strategy worth building around. Just potential good card advantage isn't enough, in my opinion. A card that has card advantage shouldn't require you to have,
lots
creatures
of
already.
Hoops to jump through.
Yeah,
too.
this feels like
you have to have creatures. They have to have +1/+1 counters on them. I mean, it's fairly costed at 3 mana for the fact that you're not getting any effect off of it when you play it on turn 3. I just meh. See better.
All right, the next one's a Mythic Council of the Absolute. It's an Azorius spell. 2, a white and a blue, human advisor. for a 2. It's 2/4. As it enters the battlefield, name a card other than a creature or a land card. Your opponents can't cast cards with the chosen name. Spells with the chosen name you cast cost 2 less to cast. That's pretty cool. Wow, on color with it.
Yeah.
So it's like a meddling mage, kind of, but it
It's-
can't hit.
It's specifically sideboard, and it's only in the mirror, I feel like. And I think I named Sphinx's Revelation with my council.
I like it against Supreme Verdict.
Yeah, it stops Supreme Verdict too, so you can do that first.
Mm-hmm.
And then name Sphinx's Revelation. So they're screwed out of both ends.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's an interesting card.
It's sideboard, you know. The
You
fact
think
that
it will,
does,
so we'll see some constructed?
the
It's
fact that it
interesting at
reduces
Mythic, too.
your Sphinx's Revelation cost too against control when you are also stopping them from being able to do it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you get to do your Sphinx's Revelation 2 turns earlier for the same effect that you would have had 2 turns from now, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and they can't even cast theirs. So it is something, you know, doing it in response to the Supreme Verdict that they're going to use to remove this too, so that it's like, well, oh well, you committed to sorcery speed removal, I'm getting 2 extra cards and 2 extra life off of this. I think it's really strong,
Yeah.
but
It's cool.
I think it is sideboard playable only.
It probably didn't need to be Mythic.
No.
We've seen creatures similar to this, and they certainly weren't Mythic.
Yeah.
Meddling Mage comes to
I'm
mind
trying to figure out why it had to be Mythic.
because
You can't name creature.
Because it's Meddling Mage plus makes your stuff cheaper because it's
Yeah,
2.
but it's 4 mana to get it, so it's already at a cost that's like prohibitive.
I'm
you
just
know?
I'm just telling you what they thought. Probably because it's a Meddling Mage in
It
their
could have been
mind.
like strict annoyance factor.
In their mind, because it's like a Pithing Needle or a Meddling Mage, not a Pithing Needle, Meddling Mage plus, what's that spell, that artifact that makes your spells 2 cheaper to cast? Like a Grand Augustine style effect. It's like Grand Augustine, whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Plus,
But Grand Augustine is actually like way more of a like screw you than this card is. in
yeah,
my
because it
opinion.
makes their stuff more
reduces
expensive.
and it
yeah.
reduces all of your multicolor blue-white spells by 2, you know, and it reduces just your white or blue spells by 1.
Mm-hmm.
So Augustine was definitely a much better card.
Yeah,
than this.
well, I mean, I agree with you. I don't think this should be a Mythic. It doesn't feel Mythic. It's not going to be a slam first pick, in my opinion,
Yeah.
and limited by
I'm
any
surprised
means.
that Lavinia didn't get Mythic status. She seems like totally worth it.
Well, let's go. Well, we
Deputy
can talk
first.
about her really fast. She's 5 mana. She's also Azorius. 5 mana, 4/4, protection from red, legendary human soldier. When she enters the battlefield, detain each non-land permanent your opponent controls with converted mana cost 4 or less. Pretty cool card. Also hits planeswalkers. Certainly going to be... I'd slam this in limited first pick. That's a pretty strong
4/4
effect.
for 5 in blue that also has pro red, and they can't block or attack me over the next turn is really
Or you
strong.
can attack in, too.
Well, that's
You're-
what I mean. They can't block, so I can.
Oh,
swing
yeah,
them,
yeah.
Then they are not
And then
going
they
to
can't attack.
back.
Yeah. Detain was awesome.
Yeah.
I love that mechanic, but I think Lavinia is the bomb. I
Mhm.
think she's very good.
She is sweet.
And you're right, she feels more powerful than Council, so
She does not look like she's 4/4. You know,
she looks weaker or stronger.
she looks weaker.
She's
She's human, for God's sake.
the picture for audio listeners is a woman standing on an
In front of a pedestal.
in front of a
She's
pedestal.
like in
she has
front of a podium.
she
actually.
has a scroll, I think, in her left hand, or she's
Probably.
reading something.
She's reading a list of arrests or something, I assume.
Okay, because Azorius is is it justice? No,
They're like the peacekeepers.
Yeah.
Like, make the laws and enforce them.
they're like the police.
But, well, the
of Giga.
Boros are the police, really.
Okay.
And, like,
The-
they're like
Azorius
the
are
law
like-
keepers, and they still have, like, their own kind of detention force, too. So maybe they're, like, more like jailers.
Okay.
So the Boros whereas the Boros are police, these are the jailers.
Okay.
You know, Boros are also army, I guess.
Let's talk about the next card, Deputy of Acquittals. This is a 2 mana. It's Azorius again. 1 blue, 1 white, 2/2 flash. When it enters the battlefield, you may return another target creature you control to its owner's hand. Very,
Snapcaster.
very, very similar card to White Mane Lion, if
Mhm.
you remember White Mane Lion. The difference being White Mane Lion was
A must.
a colorless and a white 2/2 flash. and you had to return a creature. So if you didn't have any other creature besides the white main, you had to bounce the white main. But this has the luxury of you may. So it's a surprise blocker, plus you can, like he said, get your Snapcaster back. You could protect your, Boros Reckoner from ultimate price or removal spell or I guess ultimate price would work.
And in limited, in Azorius,
any sort of removal, any sort of spot removal, you protect your creature from it.
In Azorius, in limited, just bouncing one of your detained guys back is huge. Getting a Juice to Share or whatever twice.
And I feel like this card in multiples really hoses removal.
Yeah.
Because then you're just like, oh, you target my Acquittals, I'll play a Deputy, bounce my Acquittals. And you can just keep doing it. So you're like, any sort of spot removal, as long as you have the mana for it, they're never going to be able to ping your guys. You know what I mean? And not even just spot removal. Let's talk about like spot removal abilities too. Like, is it Staticaster or something like that? They're trying to kill
the one they target. Even. Yeah, you could do that to get rid of the token that they target too.
So it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
it's really cool actually. And it's common. Is that right? Cool. It feels like a nice common. I feel like this could. I really feel like this could see constructed play. Is that outlandish? Maybe it is. White Man Lion really didn't. But like we said, this is different than White Man.
It's a relevant creature type still.
It's an interesting time too because we have stuff like Snapcaster Mage, which is
we still have Moorland Hunt in Standard too. So going back to blue-white aggro might be possible. Geist,
Yeah, actually bouncing your Geist is. This works so well with guys that with Sink Trap. Attack in, you got your block for them. Okay, I'll bounce them, take 4 from the Angel.
Yeah, I mean, it's not great.
But it works.
But it does work, yeah.
Saves your Geist if you have nothing else going on. It
works with Restoration Angel. If you have Deputy out already, you can flash in your Restoration Angel to, blink him out and bounce something else, or bounce your Restoration Angel back.
At 9 mana, you can play Angel of Serenity plus this instant speed and bounce Angel of Serenity while the ability's on the So while the ability's on the stack, you could exile 3 creatures. I guess that's not great, but Fiend Hunter would be a cheaper one. 5 mana, exile a creature permanently, and you get another use out of your Fiend Hunter.
And you have a 2/2 on the board, so it's like a,
That one's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
That one, and Acidic Slime is going to be really cool with this. I'm just
thinking
of all the best. Yeah, but I'm thinking of all the best utility inter-battlefield creatures. You know what this is kind of cool with too is what's the human he comes in and deals malcontents, Kessig malcontents, because then it's he's a human, so when you replay him, he even does more damage the second time around. You know what I mean?
I really do like it with Snapcaster though, and I think that's the best deck for it, to basically have another 1 or 2 copies of Snapcaster in your deck.
Yeah, I could see that. This guy would be like a 2 of, getting a little bit of extra bazang out of it. Also wears a Rune Tanner's Pike just fine. Cool card. I'm interested to see it hit constructed. Certainly going to be fine in limited. Actually, it's good in limited. It's sweet. Surprise blockers are always flash creatures in limited. Feel like they're just really good. All right, now we're moving on to the Rakdos. Is she the champion?
Yep.
Her name is Exava Rakdos Blood Witch. She's 4 mana. She's a human cleric. First strike haste, unleash, and each other creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it has haste. And she's a 3/3. So really, she comes in if you want as a 4/4 first strike haste.
Can't block.
And pretty much all your other unleashed creatures have haste as well. I think this is good enough for constructed. Absolutely. Aristocrat, I would say, is better because of the flying is more relevant than first strike in this case, and actually the sacrificing to save it. I think just straight up Aristocrat's a better 4-drop.
Also not legendary.
In constructed. But this card could easily see play in the same slot, like the Jund haste deck.
Oh my god, it works so well with what's her butt, Olivia too.
Yeah, because she gets +1/+1 counters, so the turn you use her, hang something and attack in. Yeah. Pretty strong. I'm trying to think of. I mean, it's cool alongside any sort of Simic creature in green. It's cool with Scavenge. You can play a creature, scavenge on it, give it haste. So, interesting card. Burst of Strength, an additional mana, and suddenly it's bigger and has haste.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be kind of cool.
First is cool. Yeah.
Common Bond. You know,
Way out of color, but yeah, that's
still,
a good one too.
I'm just thinking of things in this block that give +1/+1 counters. But regardless, she's very good. She's going to see some constructed play, I'm fairly sure. Maybe it's like a 1 or a 2 of. Just because 4 mana, I think she'll find a place in that Hell Rider, Aristocrat, Thundermaw.
Somewhere in that vein of creatures.
Mm-hmm.
The first or
A
the
mix.
haste guy.
It's like a 1 or a 2 of maybe.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Okay, the next one is Master of Cruelties. He's a mythic. He's in Rakdos. He's 5 mana. First strike, Death Touch, Demon. He can only attack alone, and when he attacks a player and isn't blocked, that player's life total becomes 1, and Master of Cruelties assigns no combat damage this combat. He's also a 1/4. Should be noted, he can't actually kill your opponent. He is unable to kill your opponent. But he has First Strike, Death Touch, which is only printed on Glissa from Mirrodin Besieged. It's the only other creature that has First Strike, Death Touch. This one feels like a joke, sort of. You know what I mean? Feels like a joke card, but certainly going to be slammable.
But I think that's why he's the Master of Cruelties. You know.
It's a cruel joke.
Yeah, basically, he himself is a cruel joke.
Because he can't kill. He can kill any creature, but he's unable to actually kill an opponent.
Or maybe he just like, I don't know.
Attacking alone is really what makes him.
Yeah.
Interesting, because it's because he has the first strike. If you could attack with other creatures, you could first strike, get him to 1, and then your other creatures attacking him would kill him.
Mm-hmm.
So they had to make it where he could only attack alone.
Well, and it's not even the first. It's not even his damage that reduces their life total to 1. It's him attacking and not being blocked.
Yeah. That's interesting.
So Rogue's Passage will bring your opponent to 1 life, and then you can do what you will to kill them.
Easily playable and limited.
Mm-hmm.
First strike, Death Touch, like we just said, just such a good.
And can attack or can only attack alone is actually fine on a First Strike, Death Touch guy because you probably want to hold back with him anyway.
Yeah, he's an excellent blocker. See, it's weird because he's in Rakdos, which is an aggressive color combination, but he'll be fine in a Jund deck. He'd be fine in a
Gruul. He'd be good.
I mean, keep in mind any 3-color combination is viable now.
I feel like
got the full
like
block.
Is it Dimir Rakdos deck is actually the one that wants him most.
Yeah, I could see that.
Because he's like solid control creature, and then he also like gets them so close to death that anything.
Your flyers can get in, or your evasive guys from Dimir.
Or any
like
spell.
Your Death Cult rogues.
Shadow Slice them.
Yeah, totally. Your Shadow Alley Denizen suddenly gets in and kills it.
Mm-hmm.
Kills him after play a black creature, give my Shadow Alley Denizen, intimidate, hit you for 1 after this is done.
Yeah.
How embarrassing would it be?
He's good enough.
And actually, it's good alongside Denizen for just getting in there as well. But, so Master of Cruelties is a cool mythic.
I think
not good enough for constructed, but cool.
It's what a mythic should be.
It's mythic because it's so unique and exotic.
Yeah,
and
yeah. It's got so many abilities slapped onto it, and some of them have never been done before. Like, you know, the attacks and isn't blocked, their life total becomes 1. And, I mean, it's a Saboteur ability, which has been done before, but not to that drastic of effect.
For some reason, I thought Phage, even though Phage is different, I thought Phage when I first read it, because
it is like lose the game. But she's so expensive.
Yeah, she's
this guy is actually
what was she, 7/4/4?
Yeah, this guy is like in line with, you know, other cards or whatever, other powerful creatures that are game ending. He's like at that 5-drop range, like Thragtusk, Thundermaw. So he's actually still a playable card, whereas Phage is like, oh, I have to get to 7 first, and I cannot get her any other way. It has to be me hard casting her, you know.
It's a funny card. But Master's cool. Interesting. But like we said, because it's in Rakdos and it's a 5-drop and it'd most likely be your first pick, kind of puts you in a weird spot, to be honest.
Yeah, you should have them at such a low life that attacking with him doesn't even matter anyway.
If you're like straight Rakdos.
Yeah.
But you don't get a ton of, you don't get straight Rakdos support in Gatecrash. Yeah, you have to just pick good really red and black creatures.
With Death Cult Rogue and stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I could see that. Definitely. So Master of Cruelty is cool, but it's mythic. You shouldn't see it too often, but a good mythic.
Probably a really annoying one to play against, too.
Oh, yeah. definitely puts a stop to any ground assaults.
Mm-hmm.
Melik, is it Paragon? Is the next card 6 mana, legendary weird wizard. Should also be noted, Master of Cruelties is not a legend. He's just a demon. So you can have multiple Master of Cruelties.
And they can only attack alone.
Yeah. Don't have to block alone. Melik, is it Paragon? 6 mana, 2/4. Play with the top card of your library revealed. You may cast the top card of your library if it's an instant or sorcery card. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell from your library, copy it. You may choose new targets for the copy. Jake, you were a little bit underwhelmed with this card, right?
I'm super underwhelmed with this card. But, like...
You feel like it should have been like 4 mana?
Yeah, I really feel like this is way too expensive. I mean, if he were 5 mana, I think I would actually be okay with his stats and everything. Because then at least he's like Magus of the Future, you know?
Oh, yeah, that's true. It's similar. But Magus of the Future didn't let you...
copy your instants and sorceries.
Yeah,
but
from
this
your library.
only lets you play instants and sorceries. So it's already less than Magus of the Future.
I see. And it sort of reveals to your opponent.
Yeah.
So it reveals to your opponent when it's non-instant or sorcery, too.
Right.
Thereby
And
not giving you any
you
value.
have to want to play like a bunch of instants and sorceries.
Yeah.
Like for constructed, this is a commander card if there ever was one.
Yeah.
First of all, but like for constructed,
It's just too expensive.
it's too expensive. The effect doesn't pay off. If you're blue, you want to be countering spells. You know.
Yeah. And if you're
Like, how
red,
good is
and if
that?
you're red burn, you don't want to pay 6 mana for a 2/4.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's just too awkward to be played.
But
limited,
it's a commander card.
I don't even think it's that
It's
good and
not
limited. It's too
playable
expensive.
either.
Yeah.
No, I'd pick it up to have a rare that I could play in commander, and then I would build a commander deck around him.
It's not unplayable in limited. I will say that. If you have like 8 to 10,
Instants and sorceries.
yes.
The double effect is nice, but honestly, I don't even see it because of how restrictive it is to get that going.
Yeah.
You know?
That's why I said it has to be 8 to 10. Because
Yeah.
then you at least have maybe like a 30% chance to get it on top of your library.
And keep in
25%.
mind that that ability doesn't even work with fuse. You can't like fuse off the top.
Yeah.
So
Don't like it that much. Too expensive.
yeah.
It is playable and limited, but you have to have the support
Yeah,
for it.
definitely.
And you're
Build
so
around.
rarely gonna first pick it. I would say you're almost never gonna first pick it.
No.
Mirko Vosk, Mind Drinker is the next card. 5 mana. It's in Dimir. 5 mana, 2/4 legendary zombie or vampire with flying. When it deals combat damage to a player, that player reveals cards from the top of his or her library until he or she reveals 4 land cards and put those cards into his or her graveyard. So it's quad grind. It's like grind,
It is.
grind, grind.
It's Mind Funeral, like when he hits. I think.
I thought
Straight up.
Mind was 3. but
Mind
maybe-
Funeral's 4.
Okay. Super strong card.
Yeah, this
Super
will
strong
kill
card.
people
Yeah.
real quick.
Limited, this will just like take people out of the
Yeah.
game in like 3 attacks probably. They're just dead.
I could see it killing people in 2.
Yeah, definitely. 2 mid game. It's gonna be like 2. But think about it's that the funny thing about this card, it's definitely a slam first pick. Mostly because it's 5 mana. Any rock, and you've got this on turn 4. Can you imagine how devastating this would be on turn 4?
Yeah,
Where you're already crippling their
and it's a 2/4, so it already blocks their attack or whatever.
and it gets in on Drakewing Crazes.
hmm
You know? What are they gonna do about it?
Yeah.
Gets in on Assault Griffin. It's like a really good power toughness for what it does. And it needs to be blocked. Really cool card. I like Mirko Vosk a lot. How about like Commander or something? Is he Commander playable? Do you
Oh,
think-
totally.
do you think he's interesting? Alongside like Sadek?
Yeah.
Because Sadek does similar is also
Sadek is like less impressive than Mirko Vosk.
but the reason that I think they're similar is they're both blue-black vampires
Yeah.
that mill your
they are very similar
Yeah.
in like what they do.
and
They're-
creature
it's
type too.
like a Ravnica vampire theme.
Yeah,
almost, to have
yeah.
the mind grind.
What
type
was
thing. Ballasted
Sadek?
by
It was
Alpha.
Sadek, Lord of Secrets.
Yeah.
Is that what his name was? Okay. Mind Drinker. I feel like I've seen that before, but maybe it's just
it's
because.
a card, Mind Drinker
Oh, really?
from Visions. I'm pretty sure.
That's funny.
Urborg Mind Drinker maybe.
So they've done that before too. Okay.
But anyway,
All right.
he's cool.
I like him. Definitely first pickable.
Mhm.
Limited. Can you imagine? Oh my God! To get him, Consuming Aberration, and you're just like hee. Playing the 5-drop
He
mill
is
deck.
really good at consuming aberration.
But Sage's Rhododendron too, just help speed you along there.
Mhm.
Maybe you'll even get an opportunity to play Paranoid Delusions. I've played Paranoid Delusions, positive effect, and I've also played it where it's a completely worthless card. So I think overall, though, not that good.
No.
Paranoid Delusions. But Mirko Vosk, very good. Certainly strong enough since it just, you don't even have to be dedicated mill plan, and he'll kill your opponent before you kill him with damage.
Mm-hmm.
Really like this card. Obsidat's Aid is the next one. This is a rare. This is a really interesting card, and I'd like to hear what you think about it. 3, a white and a black for a sorcery. Return target permanent card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So note the difference between this and like Rise from the Grave, permanent card. So Nicol Bolas,
yeah.
Planeswalker, back from your graveyard at 5 mana magically. Alongside like Faithless Looting. Suddenly everything you're discarding becomes a later game, bring it right back. Doesn't matter what you're discarding. Omniscience is actually the one that I think is gonna abusable with this. Abusable actually
is pretty much the biggest offender in my opinion, because
you're gonna be able to
dramatically changes the game from that point. Turn 5, I can cast everything for free.
Absolutely.
Turn 4, I can cast everything.
Turn 4 if you're
free.
ramping. Yeah.
You just need 1 mana rock, and it's online on turn 4.
So Obsidat's Aid, in that, I feel like that's just begging to be broken, don't you think?
Yeah.
Because we've already seen Omniscience attempting to be broken in just a straight ramp deck. So if people are working to ramp to it, I think people are going to work to res it.
That's just draw discard. I can play Faithless Looting and Forbidden Alchemy and Mulch, or like, there's so many different cards that I could play alongside Obsidat's Aid.
And the versatility.
Forbidden Alchemy is like really good.
The versatility. Yeah. If you can't hit your Omniscience, well, thank God I have this Nicol Bolas Planeswalker that I was going to play from my Omniscience anyway. Mm-hmm. I guess that's not my graveyard, but I'll hit my Planeswalker. Or I'll hit this Bristlebrand that
Getting Nicol Bolas out on turn 4 or 5 is actually also truly devastating. Yeah. It's like, destroy your land. Destroy your land. And then I'll just wipe your board with
any Planeswalker. Tamiyo.
Yeah.
How abusive would that be?
Well, it's really good if they kill her and you've been pumping her, and then you get her back 1 turn.
And keep it, and like, yeah,
but
I guess that's true.
It's actually really good to use as like, I just killed my Jace Phase Factor Fiction. One of the top cards is Obsidat's Aid. I can just get my Jace right back, or like, the other pile has 2 good cards in it too, or something like that.
This card's going to see some constructive
play. This
is
a constructive playable card for sure.
It's certainly good in limited too, since it's most likely just going to ring. It's like a Rise from the Grave, actually.
This card was dying to be made too. I mean, they've never done this effect.
And it fits in the color scheme too, because white and black would be the spell combination that would interact with the graveyard in this fashion.
White can res enchantments and artifacts as
because they've done that on Sun Titan.
And black can res creatures, and white can also res creatures, but to a lesser extent than black. And
Resurrection being the old one that did it, but
so like the crossover
half of Unburial Rights, represented by white. So
and Defy Death in Addison Restored is a really recent
perk
example.
for angels, but otherwise pretty much just a straight resurrection.
Rise from the Grave, actually, it was
because it turned it into an angel. I see.
No, it didn't. It didn't turn it into an angel.
Oh, I thought it did.
No, it brings it out, and if it's an angel, you put 2.
Oh yeah, no, that makes sense. Okay. Obsidat's Aid is a pretty strange picture. It's the Orzhov symbol with something coming out of it. I guess being resurrected.
My guess is that that's like some sort of spiritual, like nether type cloud or something that they can, similar to like the Debtor's Knell picture, where there's like that chasm of smokiness, where they can literally just pull spirits from this, and they've got 5 they've got more than 5, maybe 10 clerics at points around the circle.
Oh, I see. I didn't even notice that from this distance. Yeah, there's a bunch of clerics surrounding it. Wow, cool.
So it's really sweet.
Yeah, I agree. I like this card. I think it's very good. I'm interested to see its constructed applications, but like we've just said, I'm pretty sure we're going to see this in some sort of abusive Omniscience deck.
So, it's probably really actually even a legacy playable.
And it's not going to be overpowered because Graveyard 8 res decks, Reanimator in general, it comes until it comes, takes over, people sideboard for it, disappears, people take the sideboard out, comes back. It's an endless cycle. So Reanimator will always be around.
It is an endless cycle.
It really is. And Reanimator is usually the strongest when people aren't prepared for it. And by strongest, I mean the best deck in the format. Like recently, Reanimator was the best deck in the format. Now that people are like, okay, screw it, Purify the Graves back in my sideboard, and Rest in Peace, and Ground Seal. I'm not gonna let this happen.
Yeah, it's true. Once you died of Reanimator, you hate it out so badly in the next week that nobody will bring it back the following weeks. So it is totally like that too.
But Obzerate, great spell. I'm interested to see how it's abused, and that's the only way I can really describe it, because you can tell it's a card that's going to be abused, or attempted to be abused, but specifically alongside Omniscience, it's going to be a nightmare.
Yeah.
All right, Ral Zarek, the Planeswalker. The only one in the set? Is that going to be the only one? Is that how they're going to do it?
But I think he will be, but so far this is the only one they've spoiled.
Okay. 4 mana, he's Izzet, Planeswalker. 4 mana, 4 loyalty when he comes in. He has a +1, tap target permanent, then untap another target permanent. He has a -2, deals 3 damage to target creature or player, and -7, flip 5 coins, take an extra turn. After this one, for each coin that comes up heads. Cool. Very cool card. I like this card quite a bit. So the best comparison I've heard it is a Johnny Vengeant, and that's a fairly safe assessment. It's pretty close to a Johnny Vengeant. Vengeant clearly being better, but Ral Zarek is very cool, and the fact that he comes in with 4, he doesn't kill himself, he protects himself, he ramps you, he's versatile. He is a double lightning bolt, or he's a lightning bolt plus some damage absorption at worst. He's absolutely 100% going to see some constructed play. I have no doubt in my mind this is going to be a constructed playable card if you're on color with it. It would surprise me very much to see a card that had a lightning bolt on it, 2 uses at least on it, that didn't see play at 4 mana.
I could see him in a Turbo Fog deck, honestly. Next to Tamiyo for her ultimate, green with like either ramp or all the fog effects, obviously. And then he just bolts them away, or you get extra turns, which will help you win. You know. He's really good.
He is. He's very good. Playable alongside Chandra. You have access to 4 damage to a creature, which is kind of cool.
That is really good.
Or a player. So there's some good Planeswalker damage output at that point.
Well, they have like good chemistry together anyway, because they're in the 2 spell-centric colors, and they could easily just, you could just splash blue for the Ral Zarek and maybe some draw effects.
I like the fact that Ral Zarek gets you another mana higher the following turn if you need it. The reason that's relevant, he's mostly on color with Nicol Bolas Planeswalker. You could potentially be casting Nicol Bolas for, 7?
Well, what's for 6? Because that's the next turn, right?
I thought he cost 7, though. Is that right? Or is he
Nicol
cost
Bolas
8?
is 8.
Okay.
What's for 6?
A Planeswalker for 6?
Well, not even a Planeswalker.
Just a good
what's
spell.
like something great for 6?
What are 6 drops that are played right now? I'm not sure if there must
aren't
be.
really a ton. You could play Niv Mizzet off of him.
Most people are like topping out at Niv Mizzet the following turn at 5 mana.
The thing is, it's like Ral Zarek, bolt your guy, and now you can't attack my Ral Zarek.
Next turn, Niv Mizzet.
Yeah, next turn, Niv Mizzet.
And he
now
goes back up to 3, and he's back up to 3 loyalty, so he can lightning bolt again.
So he actually has really great synergy just with being able to cast his guild leader,
Or 6 drops in general, or even 5 drops if you're missing your land drop. He helps you ramp. He's in a color that shouldn't ramp, that ramps suddenly. And tapping a permanent can be relevant too.
I'm trying to think if there were like other ways to keep things tapped down, or whenever something becomes tapped,
it doesn't untap. Yeah, I was thinking that too.
But I can't think of any right now.
Is there anything that eats tapped creatures, like assassinate style effects?
Yeah, there's got to be something like that. But
good alongside Royal Assassin and Commander or something.
Well, then Stalking Assassin is good with him too, because that also, actually, Stalking Assassin would be really good. Royal Assassin actually is really retarded, because you can use it,
and then untap
the Royal Assassin and tap another creature and use it again on that creature.
That'd be sweet.
So yeah, that is really good alongside of Royal Assassin effects.
But Ralzeric, I'm highly rating this card. It's certainly going to see some constructive play. I like it.
Double Lightning Bolt is strong.
I like it very much. I'm trying to think how I stack it up. It's better than Domri, in my opinion. It's better than...
Kills most Planeswalkers.
Better than Sorin. I'll say that. Better than New Sorin.
Dealing 6 damage over the course of 2 turns does take out most Planeswalkers. You know?
Yeah, so he can even come down and kill another Planeswalker. He's a little bit worse than Tamiyo. I think Tamiyo at 5 gives you more bang for your buck than this does at 4. But pretty close. I would say this is close.
I think the difference is pretty big between the two.
They fill different roles.
You play Tamiyo to use her plus ability to get to her ultimate. You play Ralzeric to play his negative ability.
I'm not even, I guess you're right. They play different roles, but I'm straight up trying to say, like, in a vacuum, the potential value you're getting out of a Planeswalker,
Tamiyo is like hands down.
Yeah, the potential value you're getting out of Tamiyo compared to Ralzeric is higher, but it's closer than you might think, and you potentially get more value out of this, I would say, than like Domri, and the same goes for...
It's about the hard removal, and the fact that he can redirect damage to Planeswalkers or hit players and kill players. Ralzeric is good because of his middle ability being so versatile and having so many different applications for the game. Because that's how important damage is.
I would say, say Garruk Primal Hunter is still slightly higher than Ralzeric too.
No, if you're looking for a Planeswalker who has a wide breadth of ability, it's not Ralzeric. Like, Ralzeric has pretty much one ability that you're going to be falling back to
and he's in
over and over.
And let's be honest, he's in a color scheme that's not highly played right now.
Yeah.
It's not like blue-red is a popular deck.
Right, and also blue's not hard up for good Planeswalkers, red is. So I'm glad
a turd, so.
Yeah, I'm glad that they put this card in, but
yeah, it's almost like the red deck wins are gonna splash for this.
Yeah, this is more of a red deck wins.
Actually, this is like really a red deck wins Planeswalker.
Yeah, it totally is. Tap your blocker.
So they could just be playing like some Steam events and what's the Innistrad one? You don't know what the land's called?
Oh, Sulfur Falls.
The Sulfur Falls. So you play this in red deck wins with those 2 cards. And
well, you play him and you can untap and shock or pillar something still,
Yeah, untap a land, a shock, or pillar, or tap their creature.
And tap their creature.
So then you're getting...
You actually get 2... You get to remove 2 creatures still,
From combat, yeah. And then you can get in with whatever you got. It's cool. I like it. That's interesting.
Yeah, that is really interesting.
Okay, the next one's Render Silent. This is a 3-mana counterspell. It's in Azorius. It's a rare. Counter target spell, its controller can't cast spells this turn. Pretty straightforward. Counterspell plus silence. It's even the same mana cost of what counterspell plus silence would be. How do you evaluate this card? Certainly it's more important in constructed applications. Limited. It's playable. It's not that interesting. It's actually pretty good. It's okay in limited.
I think it's like
great.
The best.
But constructed, where do we...
best against Storm. If you're going to stop a Storm deck, this is one of the best ways to do it. It's 3 mana, so it's expensive.
But that doesn't stop them from resolving their Storm triggers.
No, but you're not countering that one.
Oh, I see. You're countering the first spell in a turn. Yeah, that's true.
Before they get enough mana, or like the 2nd or 3rd mana spell, when they're generating mana, but they then have.
That's a great point, because then you can be like, how much value is he going to try and get, and then you can cut him off.
Playing against Storm, that is the whole thing about Storm. Silence does the same thing. Oh, you got mana? No, I'm silencing you. Or in response to your Seething Song, and that's what it was. Silence you,
Okay, well, what about Standard Constructed? Are we going to see this card? Is it going to make an appearance? Is it even good?
You can't just...
What decks is it good against?
You can't just silence somebody.
So if the weird thing is, if they're already casting a spell, sometimes people just play one spell in a turn,
Yeah,
what I mean?
But I suppose the whole thing of it is that this allows you to allow them to cast their first spell of the turn, counter that, and then silence them.
A potential second spell, yeah.
So, I mean, I'm trying to think of why.
I'm trying to think where that's best. Like, where are decks that are... Okay, I guess a good example would be like Burning Tree Emissary decks, where they really want to pound out multiple stuff in a turn.
But then you counter the Burning Tree Emissary anyway.
Yeah, I don't get it. It's difficult to assess how this card is better than just... I mean, it's clearly better than just Counterspell. But I don't understand...
Honestly, I think I would have rather had Absorb back. But
What was Absorb?
Just gain 3 life and counter target spell.
Okay, yeah, that actually sounds like it'd be more relevant
Yeah.
than the quickness of the environment and stuff.
But I'm not upset by this card. It's just that it's like you said, it doesn't really have... It would have been nice if it was counter up to 1 target spell, target player can't cast spells this turn. You know? Because then it's like, 3 mana, silence you, you know? And you don't have to commit to casting a spell. But, like, yeah, the real problem is, like, versus somebody who's got Supreme Verdict or other uncounterable spells, what good does Render Silent do? And somebody was like, you can still Render Silent their Supreme Verdict, and they just won't cast any other spell set rest of the turn. And
retarded.
Wow, thank you for that. So not only did I lose every creature I have, I also discarded a card and paid 3 mana. Like, thank you very much.
Render Silent, not very good, I don't think.
No.
But an interesting card.
Really trying to think of where it applies well. I guess if it was a, like, on-cast trigger, where it silenced them when you cast this, target player can't cast spells this turn. Because then it would be like, well, it's sort of an uncounterable counterspell or something.
I almost like it would be better if it was like something, it wouldn't be right color scheme, but if it was like they can't play spells this turn and they discard a card or something. You know what I mean? Like force them to discard spells that they might have played. I feel like that's where silence ability would go.
Looking at their hand and putting one of their cards on the bottom of their library would have been the most, like,
something like, yeah,
that would have probably been the best way to do it.
Silence plus a Vendilion Click sort of ability or something where you take a card and put it on the bottom of the library.
And they don't get one back in return. And that's fine. Like, that's
because Vendilion Click is a 3/1 flyer as well, so you get more.
Yeah, but that would have been a much better way to have this
instead of a counterspell. I think you're right. It's just too weird of a... They've never done that ability combination before.
But they talked about this one before, actually. They discussed, before they released what this was, they talked about that they were going to release this card and that it was a 3-mana counterspell, and it was super good against something, and I can't remember what it was, but, like... no, it was because Time Spiral Block was next, and they knew they were printing Teferi. So they were just like, well, I think that's what it was.
They were going to print it at that time?
Teferi, because this would have come out in Dissension. Yeah.
I see.
And they were like, but Teferi's coming out, and we have to do that. So, and because Teferi was, like, just so obnoxious in general, like, you're at sorcery speed, you're limited to sorcery speed. So they have no way to counter your counter.
I see.
You know, so it was actually a really hard lock.
Okay.
Actually, and it would have been. Can you imagine this with Dralnu also?
Yeah.
In that format. So.
Yeah, it's obnoxious, but Teferi was obnoxious with anything. Teferi with Skeletal Vampire was the most obnoxious thing ever.
Yeah, and Teferi with
horrible
Brine Elemental or whatever.
Oh god, terrible. The Pickles deck, yeah. Bad times.
Yep.
Okay.
We're past that.
Rot Farm Skeleton, next card. It's a Golgari card. I like this card, by the way. 2, a black and a green, plant skeleton. It's an unusual creature type.
They actually, a lot of the Golgari cards before were plant skeleton.
Cool. Can't block, and it has its mana cost. Put the top 4 cards of your library into your graveyard, and you return it from your graveyard to the battlefield. Activate this ability only anytime you can cast sorcery. This card's highly playable, I think, in limited. I'm actually legitimately fascinated with this card in Constructed too. I think the problem is it's in a color combination that's not highly played right now. But this card is interesting.
The thing you want to do with creatures that res themselves is block, and that's the part that I always hate.
But this gives you reach in like an aggressive deck too. Like the reason I like this is, think about this alongside like Gravecrawler or something, or something else that would reward you for putting cards in your graveyard. Any flashback spell.
It actually works well in general as like a Grizzly Salvage mulch thing. Then you can also play. Isn't Veilborn Ghoul the same thing, or do you return that to your hand?
Veilborn Ghoul goes back to your hand. This
That
actually,
sucks.
the reason this is so good is it goes to the battlefield. Definitely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Veilborn does.
This
suck.
is highly playable and limited. In Return of Ravnica, you have Grizzly Salvage. You also have other means of getting cards in your graveyard, which, in my opinion, makes this highly playable. Awesome in its guild. It's always something you're going to be able to scavenge onto. Plus, it feeds you more scavenge.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent card for its guild. I really think this is a highly playable card. It's worth its 4 mana. There's going to be decks where it sucks. If you're a low creature deck, this card's going to suck because you're going to run into those times where you're just getting swarmed and then you drop a 4/1 on turn 4. So
That can't block.
So the reason, yeah, exactly. But very good if you have a nice low curve, like if you were running like Brush Striders and stuff like that, and then all of a sudden you like top out at this guy and he just reusable keeps coming back. I really think this guy's good. I'm interested in seeing more of him. I'd probably give him a 7 out of 10. I'd give him a 7. I think he's pretty damn good. Good uncommon.
He is good.
Next one's Rurik Thar the Unbowed or Unbowed?
Unbowed.
Okay. Legendary Ogre Warrior. 6/6. 6 mana, 6/6, Vigilance, Reach. Attacks each turn if able, and whenever a player casts a non-creature spell, he deals 6 damage to that player. So punishes people hard for playing non-creatures. And important things to note about this spell. Blocks Angel of Serenity, blocks Restoration Angel,
Blocks Thragtusk.
blocks Thragtusk.
Attacks into Thragtusk. Attacks into Restoration.
Yep.
And has to attack each turn. This card is amazing. This is a Titan, you know.
Yeah. So let's talk about this card. Legit question. I'm not actually convinced yet that this is constructed playable, mostly because of Reckoner. Reckoner does, at 3 mana, pretty much just effectively stop this guy.
Yeah. But I don't know. I feel like if you're Jund and you're ramping, you should be able to just kill a Reckoner outright somehow.
I feel like if you're not facing down Reckoner, it's really good. If you resolve this against a control player, what the hell are they going to do? They're going to get punished.
Isn't there something that stops your creatures from being countered yet, or right now, or no?
Cavern.
Yeah. So Warrior?
Yeah.
Sure as shit's not going to be Ogre.
What's Burning Tree Emissary?
Shaman.
Okay. What are all the warriors that are even on? We'd have to look it up, but
yeah, I'm sure there are enough. I think a lot of
I think
humans from.
I think he'll see some play. Sideboard probably only. There's matches where you just can't. If you're a ramp deck, I'm trying to think. Do you want to top out at this guy in a ramp deck, or is there better?
The problem is if you're a ramp deck, you're playing a lot of non-creature spells already. You know.
Oh yeah, you're right.
As a rule.
And it's player. It's not opponent. That kind of sucks.
So that's why he's not mythic.
You'd have to do like Somberwald Sage and Arbor Elves and Pilgrims maybe.
And Somberwald Sage isn't bad.
No, Somberwald Sage is good. We get him on turn 4.
Yeah, actually turn 3. Arbor Elf into Somberwald Sage into this.
That's legit.
And then they Supreme Verdict and take 6.
Yeah, I guess.
But they still have to wait a turn if you were on the play.
Mm-hmm. It's a cool card.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. Yeah, I don't know what to say about it. It's definitely first pickable. It's worth its mana in limited, in my opinion. With Vigilance and Reach. Yeah, it's worth paying 6 for that. Alright, the next one's Showstopper. 3 mana, it's in Rakdos. It's an instant. Until end of turn, creatures you control gain. When this creature dies, it deals 2 damage to target creature and opponent controls. I don't really like this card very much.
I really like this card. I really like the flavor text.
It's too situational. I don't get it.
No, it's not. Not for a Rakdos aggro deck. In limited, I can still attack in, and no matter what, I'm dealing damage to you.
No, it doesn't do it to the opponent, though.
Oh, to target creature and opponent controls. Never mind. It's not that good.
Yeah, it only kills creatures.
Never mind.
So, I don't really like this card. It's weird at uncommon, too. I don't even know where it's good. Like, when do you want to be picking this card? You're only going to be able to see it pack 1. in limited. And when are you going to be like, oh, I think it's a pretty unplayable card. I don't really like it.
I think it's really limited as a combat trick. I mean, you can also use it as a anti-removal or like a way to get a removal spell when they are going to remove one of your creatures. You
Yeah,
know?
I guess, it's sideboardable. That's about it. I would not want to main deck this card. I don't like it. It's like when you're losing value, have a chance to get
Gain some back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's basically how it reads to me. I don't like it. Okay, the next one's a really interesting card. Sin Collector. It's in Orzhov. It's 3 mana, 2/1 human cleric. When it enters the battlefield, target opponent reveals his or her hand. You choose an instant or sorcery card from it and exile that card. Exile is also very powerful that it does that. I really like this card. It's kind of in the same flavor as like Tide Hollow Sculler, Mesmeric Fiend,
Castigate.
and stuff
Very
like
similar
that.
to Castigate.
But this has the luxury of they don't get their value back when it dies. So Sin Collector is a very interesting creature. It's absolutely going to see some play, in my opinion. It's an irrelevant creature type in human right now. I like this card. What do you think of it?
It's good. It's great.
It's gonna be eating. It's gonna be eating Sphinx's Revelation.
And Supreme Verdict.
It also like negates Snapcaster because of exile.
I think hitting Supreme Verdict is actually where this card is really going to shine.
Absolutely.
Because having cards where you can't answer them traditionally, and like giving an answer that also happens to be in the form of what Supreme Verdict is trying to kill, you're still adding more to your board, and you're taking out their ability to deal with your board. This card's really good.
It is. It's a cool card. I like Sin Collector quite a bit. It's probably one of the better uncommons for constructed playability to come out of the spoiler so far, in my opinion. Highly playable and constructed. Sideboard, I would even go as far to say main deck. There's really not a lot of decks that I'm aware of that aren't playing instants or sorceries. And it's still a creature at worst. A pretty poor creature, I guess. But yeah, I like that ability. I think it's really cool. I think it's good. Kind of cool alongside the guy that bounces, the flash guy that bounces that we just talked about.
Actually is really cool with that guy.
Because you even get to look at the next one you want to take, So I like it. I'd rate it limited playability, probably. It's actually just fine in limited too. I'd rate it like a 7. Actually, and think about the right match too. If you're in the mirror match in Orzhov, where they're going to have the most removal, in the Rakdos deck, stealing that explosive impact they were planning to kill you with, takes those. It really is going to be damaging to the Return to Ravnica removal spells because they're all like 6 mana.
Yeah.
Stop your judgment. Stop your explosive impact.
Explosive impact is probably the most notable too.
Yeah. I even like stop your Cyclonic Rift. You thought you were gonna. Oh, you wanted to overload this? Huh? Well,
and they can't really do much. I guess they can rift in response, but
yeah, they're certainly not gonna rift your Sin Collector.
No.
So that's cool. That's a cool card. Constructed playability. I'm rating it up pretty high, like 8, 8.5 even. I really like. It's crippling, and the fact that it's better than just discard because you get a body attached to it, and you get like a peak. It's cool. Sire of Insanity is the next card. 6 mana, 6/4 demon. At the beginning of each end step, each player discards his or her hand. Interesting card. Certainly playable and limited.
Works well with Hellbent.
Could have used a little bit of evasion. Could have used a little bit of trample. Maybe even first strike. Feels a little bit underwhelming, to be honest. I feel like I'm not getting enough.
You don't like Crawworm that makes your opponent not have cards in hand anymore?
I feel
not
like
limited. It's not a limited card.
It's not?
Well, it's good and limited, but it's not like...
For Rakdos, it's fine, because they're topping out here. So this is where
But it's like, at rare, it doesn't seem right for limited, is I guess what I'm trying to say. Because, like, it's clearly rare because of constructed.
Yeah. But I think it's pretty lackluster, to be honest. Creature, it should have had any combination of flying, trample, first strike. Probably not haste, but flying, trample, first strike. I would have felt comfortable him having
Trample
any of
would have been
those.
fine.
And the fact that he doesn't makes me a little more uncomfortable with him. Sadly. But, like I said, you top out at this in your Rakdos deck. Your opponent was trying to outvalue you to win. you just ruin that plan,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're like, you know, your Blood Fray into your Spawn of Rixmati into your Sire of Insanity, and then they discard their hand. That's obviously the most ideal, but this is a Spawn of Rixmati, isn't it? Was that also a 6/4?
No, it's yeah. Well, it was
When you
I unleashed it. 6/4 couldn't block. So this actually has the added benefit of being able to block,
True.
in addition to making your opponent discard their hand.
Dies to Augur Supreme, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Suffers the same plight as Asperia Supreme. Should not have been a 6/4. In this case, 6/4 feels fine, but should have had a
What the hell
relevant.
were they doing with that card?
Asperia,
6/4?
it's not, doesn't make sense.
She should have had such reduced power. Like, they should have just made her, like, a 3-power, huge butt Air Force girl, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But maybe they were. I don't know. Whatever.
You want to talk about the next card?
Yeah, let's go. Let's move on.
Read this next one, because this one is...
Teysa.
Yeah, and the reason you should read this one is because I know you have you like the old Teysa too, so why don't you contrast and compare the new and old?
Void of Ghosts. It's crazy. Her art looks way sweeter this time around, I guess. Vigilance, protection from creatures. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to you, destroy that creature. Put a 1/1 white and black spirit creature token with flying onto the battlefield. She's a 4/4 human advisor for 7, 5 colorless, a white and a black. She's sweet. I like her.
Remember when we made the discovery about her art? Now,
Yeah,
her art is very interesting, by the way. So if
you
want
can't
to
see it on the card, like on this shot.
you're not gonna be able to see it in this video. I guarantee you. But look at a close up of Teysa and look.
Actually, we can just bring up
all right.
a Teysa.
We can try and zoom in on it.
No. Just go to Google.com and look up images. New Teysa.
Yeah. What's
Grand
her name?
Envoy of the Obsidian.
That's her name.
There, 4 days ago. That one.
It's still.
More sizes.
All right. Do you see it? Hopefully you can see it in this image. I should just save it and zoom in on it. Here we go. Okay. So the reason this is cool. Let me bring it over here so you can see it. Ugh. I don't know if it's gonna let me do it.
Can't you? Oh, I see what's happening. Can't you scroll
Unfortunately,
or not?
I don't know.
Can you bring it up in editor?
Oh, here we go. Okay, so look at right around her head. It's really difficult to see on the card, but she's got like a spirit. She has like a demon or an undead, a skeleton or a spirit.
It's a spirit.
A spirit hovering around like her head or something.
The
It's
other
like almost
side, too.
it's almost like connected to her
You can see like
cloak or her little. It's like part of it or something.
It
And
looks like
it blends into the background, but it's cool. It's really. This is the only time I really admire art is when I notice something like that you really have to look at the details to even notice. So this one's cool. It sort of gives you that dark aspect of Teysa, like the darkness in her soul.
she's bad.
But so contrast and compare to the old Teysa. The old Teysa was a 3-mana.
3-mana 2/3. And then whenever another black creature you control dies, put a 1/1 white flying spirit creature token out, and sacrifice 3 white creatures to exile target creature. So she was good, and she's definitely abusable. But this version,
You like it more or less?
I like it less, and it's really changed what she is, as what she represents as a creature, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always leery about humans that are 4 power, even when they're legendary, it just is like...
She feels overcosted?
She does feel a little overcosted to me.
Even with the pro creatures and the vigilance?
I would have rather her power or toughness been lower if she's pro creature. Actually, I would have rather she been 3/4, pro creature, 6 power, or 6 cost.
To make her cheaper and lower the power toughness a little bit.
Yeah.
Her ability is very strong. They've also put that ability, or a similar ability to that, on Dread from Lorwyn, right?
Micaeus has a similar ability too, whenever humans damage you. It's No Mercy is the original card that effect comes from.
I see.
But they've done like a mashup with, destroy that creature, you get a token then.
I like Teysa.
So it's like
though.
Field
She's-
of Souls.
I mean, she actually may be a 7-drop worth first picking in limited.
She's a limited bomb.
I think I'd go that far. The ability whenever a
Pro
creature deals
creatures
combat
and
damage to you,
vigilance are two abilities that are just ridiculous together.
she makes attacks.
Yeah.
If you get her and you're in a comfortable life position, which if you're extorting, you should hope that you are. But that
Well,
puts
and
you
then
in
their
a,
attacks in the air don't matter anymore. They get one more attack once she comes down, and then they're done.
and then you get jump blockers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really good. So she's cool. Limited bomb. She's probably one of the few 7-drop limited bombs that I'd probably pretty strongly pick. Aggressively pick. Trostani's Summoner is the next card we're going to look at. 7 mana 1/1. Uh-oh, this better be good. Alright, it's a Selesnya card, 7 mana 1/1 uncommon Elf Shaman. When it enters, you get a 2/2 White Knight with Vigilance, a 3/3 Centaur, and a 4/4 Rhino with Trample. So note the creature types. These are all relevant because Horncaller's Chant from Return to Ravnica generated the Rhino. V2 Gutsy Guildmage, Call of the Conclave, Courses Accord generated 3/3 Centaurs. And actually the new card, the
Life.
split card,
Are
Life
alive and well.
Yeah,
Alive and well.
also generates Centaurs. And we talked about all the Knight cards earlier. Security Blockade, Night Watch, Knightly Valor.
This card is amazing. 8 power for 7 mana, and it's spread out over 4 creatures.
It's a good place to top out at.
Yeah.
The other Selesnya 7-drop from Return to Ravnica was the 8/8 Vigilance guy.
Yeah, that's really funny.
So you're in both situations. You're getting
8 power.
yes,
8 toughness. I do like spreading it out more because a
Less-
3/3 and
less-
a 4/4 can actually block a lot.
less fragile
Yeah,
to
yeah.
spot removal. Like we've talked about, Gatecrash has such phenomenal instant speed, cheap instant speed removal
Yes.
that it can be difficult to play expensive one-sided creatures like this. This also actually works with the populate strategy, whereas that really didn't. So this card's interesting. You think? I mean, it's not a first pick, but it's probably it's like a 6th to 8th pick, I would say, probably in limited. Just because it's 7 mana, you have to be pretty aggressively going for a ramp aspect. Like I wouldn't feel comfortable in this playing this in limited without at least 1 rock. That goes for most 7 mana spells. If you're not running a rock, really debate whether the 7-drop is gonna actually be played. If you're gonna be able to play a 7-drop spell, 7-drop is just very difficult to get to in this limited environment in particular. Like if the original Ravnica, maybe 7-drops were like not a big deal. This format, you die fast. You die very fast. Creatures have gotten super efficient. 7-drops aren't that easy to play in this limited. So you have to keep that in mind when you're playing cards like Trust Any Summoner.
But the ramp is getting better. They're adding more mana rocks apparently too. So hopefully that causes these 7-drops to be a little more playable.
Well, I really wish we could have gotten through more cards. Which just so much to talk about. I love talking about these cards.
We only have a couple left.
No, I think we have quite a few.
No.
Oh, really?
We have, yeah.
All right. Well, let's bust through them then. All right.
We've only.
I thought we had
Varlots and Vorel and Zerta Ancient.
Okay. I guess I feel like this doesn't have all the spoilers that.
No,
MTG
they have all
Salvation
the
has.
speculated ones too.
Oh,
And
okay.
they don't put the ones that are foreign, like spoiled foreign,
Okay.
up necessarily.
Okay, so this isn't all the spoilers that have been revealed via MTG Salvation. So we'll probably get back to those next week. Actually, they might even have the full set by next week, probably, because it's the week before pre-release.
They'll definitely have it by Monday of the week of
But
the pre-release.
we're probably just going to be talking about new Dragon's Maze stuff for a while before we can get back to the Gatecrash creatures that we left off on. But really quickly, before we do our live draft, we're just going to talk about Varal's the Scar-Striped. So this is the Golgari champion. He's a 3-mana, 2/2 Troll Warrior. Legendary creature. Each creature card in your graveyard has Scavenge. The Scavenge cost is equal to its mana cost. And sacrifice another creature, regenerate him. He's a cool card. I like him. He feels a little bit underwhelming compared to some of the other lords, in my opinion. Like, what's your favorite Lord so far? I guess let's just do Varel and let's do Varel real quick, and then I guess we would have looked at. Have they spoiled them all yet? Or
Yeah.
Okay.
No, not the Boros one, and not the Celestial one.
Okay. So we're still short on 2 Lords. How many were on this list? This is
8.
okay. Varel of the Hullclade. Are you sure that wasn't on the MTG Salvation one? Or
No, I'm pretty sure all 8 of them were here.
okay. So the Simic one is a 3-mana 1/4, and it has a green and a blue tap for each counter on target artifact, creature, or land. Put another one of those counters on that permanent. Another one of those counters on that permanent. And this is Jake's favorite creature type in the entire world, human merfolk. So why do you hate the human merfolk or the?
I just think
type?
it's such a stupid mashup. Like, why couldn't this guy have been one of those 2 sentient races? You know, the other thing is that like they have Fathom Mage that shows that she's like got that bumpy, scaly look to her skin. She's not a human merfolk, you know. So what makes this guy specifically human merfolk?
Yeah, I guess I don't know.
And like, at what point do you stop being a Fathom Mage human wizard and you become an actual Vorel of the Hullclade human merfolk?
Yeah, I guess I don't know.
Not impressed. I would have liked it
She's
better.
an odd creature type. That is an odd creature combination.
Human
But
fish.
remember, I mean,
would
keep
have
in
liked
mind,
human fish more.
Simic Guild does have.
No, I understand what they were going for, and I know why they can justify it. You don't have to explain that to me. I think it's stupid, is all
Okay.
I'm saying.
Okay. So Varel of the Hullclade, Varel's the Scar Stripe. Which one? What do we like the most?
For limited? Or
For
what? In general?
the Lords are all 3 mana though. Is that what the rule is, or are some of them 4 mana? No.
They're all over the place.
Oh, okay. So Teza is the Orzhov
Orzhov
one,
one.
and is so far is the most expensive.
Yeah. Rurik Thar is the
Gruul one. Okay. Mirko Vosk is the Demir. Malik is it? Well, so far,
I think it's Lavinia is my favorite so far.
I like the Rakdos one quite a bit. You know me, I'm an aggressive player.
Exava is really good too.
Exava is very strong
I
and limited.
appreciate how good she is.
Yeah.
She's not my type, and you know that blue and white is.
Mm-hmm.
I
like Lavinia quite a bit, and I think I might agree with you because I'd like to be in that. I'd like to be in Azorius still. Azorius so far still strikes me as my favorite guild overall. Maybe not from the original Ravnica because I don't have a ton of play experience with that, but from what I've observed in Return block so far, I like Azorius the most. I like what Detain does. I like it alongside.
Really crazy in Commander because she hits all of your opponent's non-land permanents.
Wow. Yeah, it's opponents.
So that's like really crazy. If you can just blink her every turn, that's like. Hope you weren't planning on doing anything with those things that cost 4 or less.
Everybody's going to kill you, that's for sure.
Well, you play her and Gaddock Teague, and it's like, well, you can't cast things for 4 or more, and I will stop all of your 4 or less stuff.
So far, I guess we both would say Malik's the worst, but I think I like Exava, and you like Lavinia the most. And I'm just talking limited applications.
It's really too bad about Malik because his artwork is pretty cool.
But they're very close.
Yeah.
I think Exava is just such a good, powerful
Lavinia stops Exava, just so you know.
It's a good point.
Dead. Stops her dead. She's like, attack me, bro.
Pro Red is very relevant.
Yeah. Red is super relevant in a multicolor set.
Yeah. Pro Color and Landwalks are very important in multicolor sets. All right, let's
I wonder
talk
if they'll
about...
have Gatewalk.
Ooh, I'm kind of surprised. Too narrow. It feels
No. I think this would be the set to do it.
Yeah. Well, I guess Greenside Watcher turned out okay as just a.
They could have a Demir Gatewalk creature.
You know what that sounds like when you say something like that.
Gatewalk.
It sounds like snow-covered landwalk. Is what it sounds like.
Well, yeah. But.
What was the snow-covered landwalk?
What was wrong with snow-covered landwalk?
What was that stupid turd snow-covered landwalk? Snow-covered swamp walk.
Yeah, snow-covered swamp walk. It's been done a couple times, but they redid it to snow-covered landwalk.
Did they do it in Cold Snap too?
Yeah, they did it to snow-covered landwalk.
So they upgraded it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
Snow-covered swamp walk was the most annoying thing.
How narrow is that? And I don't have a good enough reason to play them because if I'm playing snow-covered lands, it's probably to play Drift of the Dead, so I have a large creature that can block. And then why am I playing that?
So narrow.
Yeah,
that's hilarious. It's like as if Landwalk wasn't narrow enough.
I know. And Ice Age was like, they had such good intentions, and that set could have been so fun, but like
it turned out to be like the payout on it is the lowest in terms of collection and resale value.
Like a couple good cards out of it.
Jester's Cap or something.
Well, Illusions of Grandeur is probably the one that's most relevant still, but Necropotence also.
Let's just do Zertai Ancient real quick and move on to the draft. So this is a Gruul card, 5 mana, 7/5 beast. It's rare. Whenever a player taps a land for mana, that player adds 1 mana to his or her mana pool of any type that land produced. So it's a mana flare, self-only. Oh no, it's any player. It's 5 mana, 7/5 with mana flare on it. What do you think?
I think they justified the power toughness by giving it mana flare.
Constructed playable?
No. I'd not
Limited
like to,
playable?
I'd not like to give my opponent that effect. Yes, limited playable.
Okay.
But I don't want to see my opponent play a Sphinx's Revelation for twice as much as they could have.
Oh god, no. I agree.
Or
Relevant.
I'll top deck my
Gets you,
or what is it?
Gets you to 10 mana.
Bonfire of the Damned?
Gets you to, oh god. Gets you to 10 mana though. And good for your bonfires. So.
You have to get another turn.
You're true.
You are true.
You are true, sir.
It's a good follow-up play to winning 5 coin flips off of Ral Zarek's ultimate. I will say that.
All right, well, let's move to the draft. Let's move it. We gotta try and win this. We're okay. We're running good on the podcast. We are running good. All right, we're gonna start our draft as soon as we can. So we only got through the MagicTheGathering.com spoilers.
That's fine.
From Daily MTG. We did not do.
We did all of the split cards that were open, so are up.
Good.
And I do think that the Breaking and Entering is an alternate art, because I swear I saw a different art spoiled for that card. Can you look at the MTG Salvation art of Breaking and Entering?
You saw different art. For real.
Go to the spoiler. You got it up already. Just go down.
What split card did you want again?
Breaking and Entering.
Breaking and Entering.
Yeah, it's totally different.
Oh, so they have, this looks like a promo.
That is a promo art.
So it looks like Breaking and Entering is going to be a promo card.
Yeah, I wonder what for.
Interesting.
Could they do it for the release event?
Are we going to see Mill?
They could do it for the release.
Are we going to see Mill, Jake, or not? In Constructed?
No.
Not any different than the Esper Mill deck that already exists, the Nephalia Drown Yard, Sphinx's Revelation. I'm just going to draw you out.
I mean, I think to go dedicated Mill is always like...
Too much of a liability?
It is. You know, it's not like a life total, you know. I mean, you have to reduce, like, roughly 57 some cards.
If you do the math on it, if you were to calculate their library as if it was 20 life, Breaking would do 8 of 60. So what is that? It goes into it like 8 times, so it's probably close. It's like close to a shock. It's like it's more than a shock to like them to do that spell, and you're paying 2 mana for it. The reason that you can't, just static compare them like that is because you're also taking spells out of their deck. You're essentially like
denying them resources.
Unfortunately, in this standard environment that we're in, we have flashbacks, so you're also rewarding
potentially beating them. The other thing
or reanimators, for that matter.
The other thing
is like, oh, thanks, I needed that on burial rites.
Yeah. The other thing is that like burn spells also have the added benefit of being able to take out creatures.
Absolutely.
Your creatures that you play. The strategy is all in line. The creatures, if you were to play creatures in a mill deck, they had better have a mill effect on them. Otherwise, you've got creatures in your deck that's not trying to win through damage, and you're doing 2 different things. And none of the creatures that have mill effects on them are typically good, No,
it's true.
Mirko Vosk is like the best mill creature they've put out in a long time.
For limited, there's some good ones in Gatecrash, but that's about it. You're right. Their overall creatures with mill have been historically pretty bad. All right, looks like our draft has started here, and let's just bring this little card thing out here. Hopefully you guys can see it a little bit better. Oops.
You gotta do that, yeah.
All right. Let us take a look at what we've got. Our rare is Oozeflux. I'm not going to first pick that. We have Gorkland Rampager, Experiment 1, Wojak Halberdiers, Ember Beast, Mugging, Disciple. Okay, the unfortunate thing is I want to take the Gorklan Rampager. The unfortunate aspect of that is there's a lot of good red picks in here. I think I'm still going to end up taking the Rampager just because the card is so phenomenal and strong. But like I said, we're passing Mugging, we're passing Ember Beast, Wojak Halberd, Experiment 1, Disciple, a lot of good Gruul cards. I think I'm just going to have to live with that. I wish I wasn't passing that Signal, but none of the other cards in this pack are nearly on power level with it. The closest one would be Halberdiers because it would move me into Boros, so I'd feel more comfortable taking white cards. But I think I'm just comfortable enough taking the best card in Rampager, hoping we can get fed enough for it. But if not, we'll go into a different color scheme. Okay, pack 2. Molten Primordial, Crown Ceratok, Simic Charm, Wojak Halberdiers, and Scorchwalker. Could just take the other good 4-drop in Crown Ceratok. It's still on color with the Gorklan Rampager. Alternatively, we can take the Simic Charm, possibly move into a Simic Gruul build. What are you feeling? Are you feeling comfortable picking?
I like the Ceratok more.
The Ceratok keeps us in line with Rampager and is actually just
2 4-drops to trample.
They're probably maybe my 2 favorite 4-drops from this.
They're both really strong
from this set. I think I can agree with that. Simic Charm is quite strong, and it's going to be difficult to. It's definitely passing a Simic signal, but I think you're right. I think Crown Ceratok is certainly good enough to want to pick there. Okay, now we have Zamek Guildmage, Slaughterhorn, Burst of Strength. I guess we could take the Slaughterhorn, but this might be a sign that we're Simic's
supposed
open.
To be going into Simic, yeah.
It could be.
I kind of like Zamek Guildmage just because of Crown Ceratok too.
And it's just so good
It
in
already
general.
synergizes
And
well.
you know how sick we are about Simic and Zamek Guildmage in particular. Both abilities are so relevant, well costed. I love Zamek Guildmage. So I think we're going to take it here. That I mean, you should usually take that as a sign that Simic is being
We got
passed
past
to you.
the Simic Charm that we didn't take.
Okay,
Shamble Shark.
now we have Shamble Shark, is also Verdant Haven, Greenside Watcher, Gridlock, Hands of Binding. A lot of other good cards in the pack, but I have to agree with Jake. We're certainly taking the Shamble Shark there.
Krakenura? Oh my god.
All right, we're getting the Simic picks, it looks like. There's also Death Cult Rogue, Scar Goliath. So it's Krakenurus, Death Cult Rogue, Scar Goliath, Leyline Phantom, Mark for Death, Gruul Guildgate. Some relevant spells. We're taking the Krakenura pretty happily. Very phenomenal spell. All right, next one we have Burst of Strength, Ruination Worm, Armored Transport, Duskmantle Guildmage. I think we take the Burst. Yeah, Burst feels pretty good.
Good with our Ceratok too.
Okay.
Sapphire Drake, Frilled Oculus.
We have Sapphire Drake, Frilled Oculus, Simic Guildgate. Sapphire Drake is very bomby.
Yeah, it is.
Frilled Oculus is an excellent 2-drop, and I want to at least get 1. Do I value 2-drops more than... I think the bomminess of Sapphire Drake actually trumps Oculus. Because especially if we've already got...
Adaptive
we have 2 evolved creatures already. We have a Burst of Strength to give another creature flying. I think Sapphire Drake
We have both the creatures that have +1/+1 counter dependencies. We still have Zamek Guildmage too, so...
Yep.
I think Sapphire Drake is good.
Yep, synergizes already with what we've got. I like it.
Adaptive Snapjaw?
Foil Undercity Plague in here. Interesting. That's cool. Skinbrand Goblin also in here, as well as Boros Guildgate, Syndicate Enforcer. But Snapjaw is in here. It evolves. It works so well with Sapphire Drake. I kind of wanted the Goblin if we're going to make the Rampager work, but I think you're right. It just makes sense to take the Snapjaw here. It works too well with the Sapphire Drake. We tabled the Ooze Flux. I think we can actually take it because we could get Raptors in the next couple packs, and then we have. Or are you not interested in that?
Well, okay.
It's actually fine because we have
Flux works really well with Zamek Guildmage too.
Oh yeah.
If you put 1 trigger out and you have 1 counter on your Krakenura, you can take it off. And then
re-evolve it when you take 2.
Put a 2/2 Ooze out. So you would re-evolve it because they'd come out with that +1.
That's cool.
Counter.
No, that's really good.
So yeah, maybe we should pick it up.
There's enough upside to that. I think we can try
Hanging
to
in enemies actually works if we need to go that strategy.
All right, we got another Burst.
That's great.
So Verdant Haven, pretty happily taking that.
Wow.
Wildwood Rebirth also playable. So second to last pick.
Everybody has understood how terrible that card is.
I really don't think it's terrible. It's just not very good. That's the problem.
I think that its abilities are so irrelevant that it doesn't matter.
I don't feel comfortable calling it terrible. It is a bear at worst.
It's 2 mana.
2/2?
Exclusively
color.
2 color. Yeah.
Hey, but give it some credit. It's a late game mana sink.
It is. it's something to do, but it's not efficient. Homing lightning.
All right,
That sucks.
Sepulchral Primordial in this pack. Additionally, Vyashno, Shanktail, Guardian of the Gateless, Homing Lightning, Balustrade Spy, Kingpin's Pet, Edict, Scabland Charger, Verdenhaven, Sage's Road Denizen. A lot of good off-color stuff. We could still try and make the Homing Lightning work and go
It's
a
too
little more
dangerous.
rogue. I really want to play Gorkland Rampager.
And then pick up the Shanktail. At least that
I'd rather
involves
play a
stuff.
Lightning than Shanktail. I mean, if we're going to pick either of those, then I'd rather just pick like a Sage's Road Denizen, which is a 3-drop
Okay.
that's on color.
I don't like the homing lightning for us. We're way too into Simic. Gorkland I can get behind, but
If we got some more mana fixing, I'd be okay with it. We have the Verdenhaven. I don't mind going a bigger mix.
Okay.
I mean, Sage's Row is good. It's the second best Denizen.
I like it. I'm
Blocks
not
well,
opposed to
gets
it.
us to late game.
I'm saying don't take the homing lightning.
Or
because I
the
think that it's
Charger.
too
What do you
much.
like more? All right, Charger or Denizen? I think I like Denizen's cooler because it's cheaper.
Yeah, we already have plenty of 4-drops.
Okay, follow-up
Agoraphobia.
pick. We've got Snapjaw, Agoraphobia, Zertos Swine. I'm not opposed to Agoraphobia here. I like it quite a bit.
I like it.
Gets
Too.
us to our later game. And actually, once you get a Sapphire Drake online, Agoraphobia is sick. But Simic wants to build. Simic needs time to evolve and get their guys huge. So I like the idea of Agoraphobia.
Oh my goodness.
All right, we've got Ivy Lane Denizen, Warmine Infantry. I think we just take the Ivy Lane here.
Denizen, yeah.
I like Ivy Lane quite a bit. We already have quite a few green creatures. Let's
Plus,
hide Clinging Anemones. I don't think I want to play
We
it.
want +1/+1 counters.
Yeah,
on our
for
creatures.
Oozeflux too.
Yeah.
And just everything.
Everything.
So Ivy Lane fits in exactly with what we're trying to do.
Pit fight.
All right, there's Gruul Kirun, but Jake correctly called it. We're slamming a pit fight. Pit fight's
You
insane.
can't not
and
get pit fight.
we're-
We have a croc.
you can't be more well geared for what
Yeah.
we have. Sage's Row Denizen, Crown Ceratok, Gorkland Rampager, Ivy Lane Denizen. Everything we have is excellent. This is the pit fight deck. Whenever Jake and I get 3 pit fights
Ooh.
too, we just end up breaking the
I
game.
love Rust Scarab.
All right, we got Rust Scarab in the same pack as Adaptive Snapjaw. Though Snapjaw has better
I
synergies
see
with
the
what we have,
synergy,
I
so-
think we want the efficiency of the
Okay.
Rust Scarab. Probably, I think I'm more with that
Okay.
because there's good auras in
I
this
really
set.
like Rust Scarab.
And Rust Scarab you see less than Snapjaw as well.
Ivy
All right, we've
Lane
got
Ghost.
another Denizen. Yeah,
I need that.
there's also a foil Glaring Spotlight in this pack, which is really really good in our deck because we don't have much evasion at all, and our creatures are going to get fat fast. But unfortunately, it's in the same pack as Ivy Lane Denizen, which is just more important for what we're trying to do. Just way too many synergies with what we've got. Works in multiples so well. Well, we got another now we have another choice, another Glaring Spotlight, but it's in the same pack as the Simic Flux Mage.
Either
think-
one is fine.
Yeah, I think once again I'm gonna take the creature. I like the Flux Mage more.
Actually, that's really good in our deck because we have
with the
+1/+1.
Ivy Lane, it's just too good. Getting bigger. All right, we can take a Keymaster Rogue here. It works well for bouncing a creature that you want to re-evolve stuff with. There's really not much else in here for us. Illusionist Bracer, but
We only have 2 creatures that can actually do anything with it.
so not worth it. All right, Sepulchral Primordial, Wield. Balustrade Spy is probably a little more annoying, so I think we'll just take that out. Active Treason can be annoying too, but... All right, we tabled a Snapjaw. There's
Yeah.
also Undercity Informer in this pack, which really shouldn't wheel. It's a very strong card. I think the black player's going to be happy with that. We'll take a second Snapjaw.
Rogue?
I don't think we need a second Rogue.
Oh, we already had one.
Don't need... I guess we could take a Bioshift. It's possible. Could be useful. Probably not playing it.
Phantom.
Yep, taking the Phantom for sure. Probably not playing that either.
We don't need
Need
to
it.
play all of this stuff. we have, though, for
Take
sure.
away... we can actually take Sky Games, believe it or not. None of our guys evade. So pack 2, we already have like pretty much a deck. We already know what we're doing. We look like we're pretty much straight Simic. Possibly
Splash.
splashing with a Rampager. It may be unnecessary at this point, but we have enough late game where I want to play the Verdenhaven 100%. So if I'm playing the Verdenhaven, maybe I'm just playing Rampager too. We have enough stuff that it evolves. It's got to be the most relevant Blood Rush creature in the game.
Mm-hmm. cheap enough and a big enough.
Ogre Slumlord Pack 3 is our rare. I wish we could take that, but
Shamble Shark?
on the good note, we get to take a Shamble Shark.
Look at this Orzhov Demir pack, though.
Yeah, there's Balustrade Spies, Syndic of Ties, Orzhov Keyrune, Gutter Skull, Death's Approach, Night Watch. A lot of Ogre Slumlords are rare. This is probably the first time in my life I've passed an Ogre Slumlord, but we're going to take the Shamble Shark pretty happily. Alright, now we have Ground Assault. We could go triple Denizen. There's also Simic Flux Mage, Scatplan
Ground
Charger.
Assault, actually.
We could do the Ground Assault. I'm not opposed to that. Getting a triple Denizen, I would probably be willing to cut the Rampager at that point and maybe even the Rogue.
I would cut the Rogue first. Actually.
Okay. I do like Ground Assault. It's probably my favorite removal spell. It's fine on the splash. We have the Verdant Haven. We have 15 creatures already. Denizen and multiples is sick. But really the thing that keeps you alive with Denizen is having removal backup, so you can just keep playing stuff, yeah. And there's 2 glaring spotlights too. Something to keep in mind. That's tough. Ground Assault versus triple Denizen. It's the best Denizen. We've talked about this.
Take it.
I want to. I really do. I think I am. I think it's just insane enough in our deck. Alright, Rage Beast. Rule Rage Beast, but there's also Disciple.
Mind Eye Drake also.
And Mind Eye Drake, yep. Mind Eye Drake is another 5-drop.
Disciple's actually probably the best.
Disciple's a 2-drop. We're a little bit short on 2-drops.
All our other 5-drop, or all of our other big creatures fly, potentially. Just in general.
Mind Eye Drake is very good, but we have enough 4 and 5, 6 kind of going on right now. So let's fill out our lower end a little bit. Alright, we got that Frilled Oculus. Pretty happy about that. It's also Scarred Guildmage.
2 mana.
But we may not even be playing the Rampager. I'm not. I might be. I'm pretty sure I am. I'm just not 100%. But we're gonna take Frilled Oculus here pretty happily. It's a good 2-drop. All right, now we have.
One?
Yeah. Wow. It's Experiment 1, also in the pack, Incursion Specialist and Greenside Watcher, both of which are fairly irrelevant in our deck. So pretty happily take the Experiment 1.
Biovisionary.
We have Biovisionary, Disciple, Metropolis, Sprite, Warmind Infantry, Keymaster Rogue. Jake's right. We take the Sprite. Awesome alongside our Denizens that should make it fat. Another Frilled Oculus, which we'll happily take. In the same pack as nothing else really. Active Treason. Yeah. Alright. Another Verdant Haven. Also another Sage's Road Denizen. We have 21 creatures. I think we might want the second Haven.
Yeah, but aren't we going to cut some? Maybe the Haven's okay, but we don't have hardly any at 3 anyway.
Alright, we can take the... Well, we probably don't need double Haven, I guess that you're right. We'll take the second Denizen. The second blue Denizen. Guess we'll take a Riot Gear. Not really necessary in here. Take a Scatplan Charger. Take a Naturalize for the sideboard. So, we have more than enough playables. We're going to have a good deck. We just don't know what exactly is our deck. Wow. Another Denizen? Alright, we're straight Simic at this point.
Can't believe it.
This is, I've never had 6 Denizens before in my life. Yeah, I've never had 6 Denizens. That's crazy. Alright, we got a Razor Tip Whip. Gonna need that. This deck could really use one of those. So yeah, there's just tons of good, strong cards in this deck. Probably not even playing the Verdant Haven, you're right. We can just start hiding some stuff. I don't think we're doing Rampager anymore. We don't even need the red. So our first pick was irrelevant. Do we still want the Ooze Flux? Is this an Ooze Flux deck?
Maybe not.
Possibly not. I don't know if we're gonna have space for it.
Well, we didn't get the the Raptors, which are the ones that make the combo work even.
Well, let's take a look at what we do have that's good. So, plenty of Denizens, as we've discussed. Got the Snapjaws and the Rust Scarabs. The late game is pretty good. Probably don't need the Rogue, probably don't need the Phantom, Drake. Alright, this is 22 right here. I'm sure I'm missing something. Pit Fight.
And all of our dual color stuff.
Shamble Sharks have
Zamek
to go in.
Guildmage.
Zamek Guildmage has to go in. And I think that's it. Okay. So now we have 26. I think we can cut a Charger probably. Cut the late curve a little bit more. 21 creatures currently. Maybe we don't need the Disciple, so we're not likely to get value off it. It is a 2-drop that evolves the Shamble Sharks though, so I think it's actually a little bit too important and this. So we kind of need it. So where do we cut? Could cut a Burst of Strength. We top out at 6, but it's only 1 spell, and our curve actually looks lower than... We do have a Mana Sink. I guess the Infinite Mana Sink in Zamek Guildmage, but do we have any other Mana Sink really? This a little bit. The Simic Flux Mage. Agoraphobia, I guess, is kind of one. Okay, I guess we have enough. Or I could see that being justified. 21 creatures is enormous. What do we want to cut? Do we want to cut Agoraphobia for maybe move it to sideboard?
You want to play 21 creatures?
Yeah, I don't mind.
Okay.
We're a little bit short on removal, but we have the bursts. We look like a deck that can race really well. I think we probably run 17 lands.
You can cut a burst.
So we could do one. We could run it like, I'm not opposed to running it like this. 21 creatures. Our tricks are just a burst, hit, fight. That's it. That's pretty low, I guess. Maybe 2 burst, hit, fight would make a little more sense. Just because we'd only have 3 removal spells. In this.
Take out the Disciple. Everything else at 2 already pumps it.
It's
Like
the weakest. It's probably the weakest creature in the deck.
Frilled Oculus is...
How many creatures do we have that work with
Oculite.
Denizen now, though? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, it's more than enough. All right. All right, yeah, I like it like this. What do you think? Looks pretty solid. Pit Fight looks amazing in this deck. Triple that Denizen, triple this Denizen. Our guys are huge. I really like the way this deck looks. Our 2 and 3 drops and our late game plan. Really, because we're so short on removal, that is definitely the biggest shortcoming of this deck. It's only going to be a shortcoming though if they get a really solid jump on us. Like I could see possibly Orzhov being unable to keep up with them if we flub a little bit on draws. But overall, this looks really good. So I'll read it out for our audio listeners. Actually, I should add the lands first too. We look like we're mostly green, but we're pretty close overall. We didn't get any gates, correct, Jake? No gates. Okay. So we could do 9/8 green. I guess that looks fine. We're more green than blue, so we'll do
Nothing
9/8.
requires double either, so...
Not a super color intensive deck. All right, so we are currently 2 bursts of strength, 1 experiment 1. A Pit Fight, 2 Frilled Oculus, Metropolis Sprite, 2 Shamble Sharks, a Zamek Guildmage, Krakenura, 3 Sage's Row Denizen, 1 Simic Flux Mage, 3 Ivy Lane Denizen, Crown Ceratok, 2 Adaptive Snapjaw, Rust Scarab, and Sapphire Drake. One more thing to note, I am going to be posting the drafting portion of this, so I'll be recording that very shortly. But also, something to note specifically about this deck. Adaptive Snapjaw gets pumped from all 6 of our Denizens, so that's kind of cool. But this is a great deck. Go to SeemsGoodMagic.com, check out our eBay store, purchase some singles. You directly support me, and I really appreciate you doing that if you do. So thanks for purchasing from my store. If you haven't already, check out what we've got. Yeah, at SeemsGoodMagic. Follow us on Twitter. Email me at mortarpod@seemsgoodmagic.com. So for Jake, I'm Alex Stevenson. Hope you enjoyed this week's episode. We'll have some more spoilers for you next week. See you guys later.